Bob Kelly, the chair of the committee and chair of the Water and Sewer Subcommittee. And we'll begin with introductions around the room. Corey, if you could lead us in.
Hi, Corey Stevens, JD Hill Ave, Water Sewer Subcommittee.
Doreen Chester, Finance Director.
Rustine, Town Manager.
Jennifer Perry, Public Works Director.
Matthew Worley, Water Sewer Manager.
Dave Bevins, DPW Subcommittee.
Doug Clement, DPW Subcommittee.
Anthony Zwan, I was on the subcommittee for Parks and Rec and Human Services and Library.
Nancy Belanger, Chair of General Government Subcommittee.
Anna Grazier, General Government Subcommittee.
Liz Canada, Parks and Rec, Library, Human Services.
Great, thank you. And also with us are select board members Julie Gilman and Nico Papaconstandis. So tonight we're going to be dealing with water and sewer. Corey and I were the subcommittee that met with Jen Perry, the director, and Matt Berube, the managing engineer, a couple of times, and many emails back and forth on the various issues. Corey's going to make the presentation, and we thought that it would be worthwhile to actually read the narrative for the folks at home. There are obviously a lot of issues associated with the water and sewer budget, and would like to sort of enlighten everyone on what some of those issues are. So Corey, why don't you, we'll start off with the water fund discussion.
Okay, well, thanks, folks, for being here, Jen and Matt. As Bob said, there's no shortages of challenges for the water sewer departments to deal with currently and as we go into the future with our aging infrastructure and with our brand spanking new sewer plants. So I will start by just reading the report summary, and then we can have more of a conversation about each of the lines that we observed as needing inquiry or that we made an adjustment to. We'll go through each department, and then at the end of each department, we can have discussion about the line items that anybody wants to talk about or the ones that we changed. So we'll start with the water fund. The water fund is facing continued cost pressures associated with operating the town's drinking water system. As presented, the budget is a 15.6% increase over 2019. Increases in salary and wages are notable and dictated primarily by union contracts. Costs to train department staff on the new Munis billing software, along with software conversion costs, are also noted. The ongoing need to test water supply, in addition to the new directive this year from New Hampshire DES to begin testing for PFOA and PFAS, has resulted in cost increase to these budget lines as well. The most significant cost increase come from simply operating the town's water system, water testing, chemical supplies, equipment and parts repair and replacement, general maintenance of the town's two drinking water treatment plants and associated infrastructure. The department is also proposing to reevaluate water and sewer impact fees in 2020, as they've not been done in several years. The subcommittee is concerned about the overall increase to the proposed water budget for 2020. While many of the proposed expenditures are worthy, the subcommittee felt the need to slow down the rate of increase and spread costs over future years. The subcommittee's recommendation and discussion of the water fund budget is detailed in the presentation that we'll lay out now. And as I said, we commented on lines where we thought maybe the full committee would have questions, or obviously that we made adjustments to. So starting with administration, assuming nobody has any comments at this point.
Proceed.
So administration, salary and wages, full-time, 51110. $15,890 increase is noted. And as I mentioned, these are largely due to scheduled increases under contracts and the transition of one technician to a engineer assistant. Skipping down through to consulting services, 55055, still on page 1. water fund has a $10,000 increase in it. That is to hire a consultant, as I noted, to assess impact fees related to new tie-ins to the system. The last time the fees were updated is somewhere in the early 2000s, and at the time, according to our historian, Bob Kelly, that was done in-house. We talked to the department quite a bit about this and the need to perhaps do it professionally. For many reasons, including, I think, just knowing that we're on solid footing with what the rates would be based on a study by a third party. However, we didn't see why we couldn't do it internally again. We have a sewer or a water sewer, advisory committee. And Bob can speak to this a little more since he was involved with it at the time. But we didn't see a reason why we couldn't do that again.
Yeah, the upshot of it is that we, the last time the impact fees were reviewed, it was done in-house with a commercially available program. And at that time, the rates were increased some, but not a lot, because there was a sensitivity to stifling development and other things at the time. So we felt that, at least in the beginning, it would be worthwhile to do something similar until we got a sense of what kind of scale we were looking at. I think everybody agrees the impact fees need to be adjusted. But since the early 2000s, we've added, well in excess of $75 million in capital costs to the rolls, and that is going to make our impact fees go through the roof, which I don't think we want. So the assessment was that we would do it in-house to get an idea of where we are. And then if we felt like from there we needed to go for some sort of professional review, then we could do that. But the thought was that initially we would look at it in-house and have some internal discussions between the department and the town manager and the water sewer advisory committee, and then go from there. So that's sort of the genesis of that idea. Tom?
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, I certainly agree. I think if you look at the way we do impact fees with water and sewer, it's kind of like a template. It's kind of a standard template that we just apply our particular needs and needs cost-wise to the template. It's based on the amount of bedrooms for residential, not the square footage on commercial or not, but it's a pretty general template. So I'm not, I think I agree. I don't think we need to spend that kind of money, because we can just do an in-house review and say, where do we need to update our numbers if we should,
Right,
based on that template. So I think that's a good approach. I concur with the subcommittee's reasoning there.
And I guess I would point out that these guys, have no shortage of things to do on their plate. So when we did it years ago, it was done by some volunteers. So, I think Bob and I both volunteered, and I'm sure there would be others that would be willing to take part in that exercise.
And we do have an active water resource.
Right, exactly.
We do.
Jen, did you have any chime in or?
The only, the reason for the timing of this is that we are going through other impact fees, in addition to water and sewer system development charges. That's what they're being referred to. And so there's been a bit of there's an attempt to do a deep dive and a thorough review of all of those kinds of fees to make sure that they're representative, that they're, what they should be, in order to not necessarily, certainly not to suppress development, but to make sure that new development and new connections are paying for their fair share when they make connections, because the town has been making very significant investments in all of our systems, and whether it's Parks and Rec or library or a new wastewater treatment plant. So that's the only reason for the timing of this.
It's definitely worth doing, and we just thought that it'd be worth sort of getting an assessment in-house where we are, and then if we do need that professional assistance for confirmation or legitimacy, there's always that option down the road, but we thought we would start another way. Tom?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding impact fees, and without getting into the weeds too much, but it does relate to, I guess, you're thinking about the funding and the contract services. Are we going to be missing the boat on capitalizing on impact fees by putting this off, by delaying this?
Well,
Given the.
considering they haven't been
given
done
the
in
rate of
15 years, I
development.
don't think we're missing any boats.
Yeah, no, but I mean, relative to the rate of development that's going on right now, in terms of the number of units that are coming online, et cetera, was that factored into?
It's on the agenda for our Water and Sewer Committee for November 20th, which is roughly 2 weeks, and we can dive right into it if we so see fit. I would imagine myself as the chair of that committee having a conversation with the town manager and figuring out how we want to approach this, but I don't think we're going to be missing any kind of timing.
Potentially, could impact fees potentially be adjusted before, within the next year or before
Oh,
the next
absolutely.
year's cycle?
I
guess
think-
that's what I'm getting at.
The intent would be to have some ideas out there by, let's say, in the next 6 months. I mean, get through the budget season, get through deliberative session and voting,
Yeah.
and that we would have, by that time, the committee would probably have a rough idea, and then we could spend a few months and deliberate it and then see where we want to go. But yeah, certainly by next April to June, we would have what everybody is comfortable with and then decide where to go from there.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Yeah, my only comment would be that, I think, and Bob's offer of the committee digging into this a little bit and doing some work on it is certainly welcome. I think that's great. I just wanted to point out too that our auditors have definitely sort of picked up on water sewer impact fees along with the other impact fees and have suggested that we do this kind of review because of the age, because we have not done one in so long. And, their concern with it is simply that we are keeping up with the law, keeping up with the defensible impact fees and so forth. And really, that's why this year with planning, as Jennifer mentioned, with planning, digging in on their side with rec and school impact fees, we felt to do them all at one time would actually be a really good exercise for us to do. So we had an up-to-date package moving ahead, so.
so a couple of things. So I think timing is not even an issue because, a free assessment can get done, started at any time. And just to be clear, Dave Sharple's planner didn't think that it was the same group that would do both sides of that impact, both water, sewer, and then the planning impact fees.
Yeah, that's correct. And normally, when we look at impact fees, and I know Jennifer alluded to the idea that they're system development charges, they have a slightly different connotation. So typically for that, you would bring in an Underwood Engineers, a Wright Pierce, a firm that, Weston and Sampson, a firm that has had experience with doing this in other communities, so they can give your own impact fees, these charges, the sort of backbone that comes with a generally accepted route of how to charge back, so. That's what we would do
There are
in this
two different
instance.
consulting groups either way, right?
Right, they are very different groups, yes.
Okay, see?
So just then down to 5515A, which is insurance reimbursed repairs. We just noted that the line never looks like it gets spent, but then I got a bit of an education on how it works. This is a line that's sort of there for expenses that would come up within water that would be reimbursed by insurance. Therefore, the line always looks like we never expend, but we need it there, so.
It's for $1,000 deductible, which would be a
Right.
covered expense.
Yeah.
What we would have to pay out of pocket for one claim, so we use it as a placeholder.
Next down to legal 55170. We noted that the line just looked underspent, but we're assured that it would be spent out by the end of the year. So that was it in administration. Want to just keep rolling through? Yep.
Let's just keep going so we can sort of see how things shake out.
Yep. Down to, into billing, 55055, again, is consulting services. 2019 budget looked a bit underspent at the time. We are assured that it will be spent out by the department. The $3,000 increase is for scheduled implementation of the Munis software billing and collection module in 2020. So Munis is coming to your water and sewer department. So that's the increase there. It's a gotta have. We're getting to the point where I guess we're getting to the end of Munis implementation, and obviously water sewer collections are important, and therefore it needs to be implemented, and then they need to be trained on it. Associated with that is line 55308, travel reimbursement for $1,500, which is a new line in 2020. And this is funds to have the Munis instructor come to Exeter and do some training. And then finally, similar, 55091, education training, is up by $63.75, $6,000. And this is the training cost for water for the Munis billing system. That was it in distribution. Any question? I'm sorry, that was in billing. Any questions on any of that?
Nope.
Into distribution now. Wages were noted to be up $8,476. That's full-time wages. And that is due to scheduled increases under union contracts. We noticed line 55105, equipment maintenance, at the time seemed to be underspent, but we're told there's no problem spending that by year end, and things are in the pipeline or just haven't been billed for yet, so no issue there.
A lot of times, the department, if there's nothing pressing, will sort of leave a cushion in case some sort of crisis happens, and they've become very astute at being able to foresee crises, which is not always easy. Well, at any rate, but this is year-to-date almost $6,000, so we're getting down to the point where Matt does a lot of his equipment and vehicle maintenance, so some of the funds that might be underspent will have historically been spent to the max or slightly over.
Similar to that is 55296, system maintenance. We got an updated number as of our meeting in mid-October of $38,000 spent out of the $54,000 budget. So next item is a new line that you'll see a couple times in both the water and sewer budget. And we spoke about it briefly with the fire department when they were in visiting us, is fire alarm communication. I'm going to explain this, and then the department's going to explain it better, so then we can talk about it after that. But essentially, as we talked about during the fire presentation, the fire alarm communication system that the water sewer department uses for its various buildings is outdated. And it's located in the public safety complex. It's called the Keltron system, and it can no longer be supported by the fire department. So the water and sewer departments have been told that they need to update their system. The cost to replace the system that was in the budget comes to just under $30,000, I think, between the two departments. And it's an estimate. When we were speaking with Matt and Jen, I think they're getting their head around what needs to be done, what's alarmed, what's not alarmed, what needs to be alarmed, how it gets alarmed, what's the product that they end up using, is it cellular based, is it landline based, all these kind of questions. So we prodded with the fire department a little bit to hear what they had to say about it, and they were weren't sure which buildings needed to be alarmed as well. So we pulled that project for sort of further vetting from the budget. but are happy to talk about that more with everybody at this point.
So, this is important. We do have fire alarm capacity in most of our pumping stations, not every single pumping station, but this does cover all of the water pumping stations. And to lose that alarm, you know, at this point in time, to not have any alarm is a real concern. Believe it or not, water treatment facilities can catch fire. There was a major catastrophe in Merrimack, New Hampshire, many years ago, where one of their main facilities caught fire. You think about it, we've got pumps, a lot of electrical equipment, and things are running, and it's really important that we have a quick response. So we want to be able to preserve that alarm communication piece. We do not have the final solution. Matt has done a good job of at least developing a preliminary concept of what we could do to preserve alarm conditions or alarm communications. We do need to do more, but this came up rather quickly this year. It wasn't something that we foresaw. So we'd ask to at least provide some funding. To absolutely have nothing means we will have no communications for fire alarms next year.
So what would we do if the funds that we did allocate to it ended up being short? Would we just pick the most important buildings and do those and then come back at it next year, or how do we?
Currently, there's 7 out of the 21 stations. The fire department tells me 7 buildings are currently under this Keltron system. Not to use the wrong word, but I was alarmed that there wasn't more with the fire department's fire alarm. Most of the fire alarms are coming through SCADA, so that's one avenue that they're coming through, but I just kind of found out that they're only monitoring 7 of the 21 buildings. So whether they need to be due to size or whatever, I was more or less concerned with functionality. If there was a fire at one of our little stations and say SCADA didn't alarm us, there's no other backup. So yeah, I mean, we can continue to vet this out a little bit more. We don't know if it's a fire department thing or a risk management or insurance provider thing. We're kind of getting ready to contact them to see if there's if they require anything with our pump stations. So.
Right.
So we're kind of looking a little bit deeper. We're
Yeah, I
trying to
guess
get
what
to-
we were just hoping to get, this shows up 4 different places in the budget to the tune of about $30,000. And I think we just wanted to try to get our arms around it. I realize that you're probably trying to do the same thing.
Sure.
And we were just wanted to maybe take another stab at seeing what the real numbers were. If it's 30, I guess we have to do something. We certainly agree. But this was more just to elicit conversation than any.
So my numbers were kind of using $100, per site, per month. Because I'm assuming that with third-party monitoring, you're gonna have a charge, then you're also gonna have a charge with the cell service or the phone. So I was assuming at least 75, but I don't know what they
Right.
really charge. So 75 a month per site is where these numbers, $100, that's where the numbers came from. Whether we have to do every building, I don't know. I'm still trying to vet that out.
And where does the 75 to 100 come from?
It's kind of you know what your cell phone charge is. I know what we're being
Yeah.
charged at other plants for certain things, and it's 35 and 35, so I'm at about $70.
Yeah.
So I used 100 just to be safe, not knowing what kind of service I'm gonna need.
Yeah.
I don't always get what someone on the street might get.
Right. What would it take, so you're getting your head around it, but like to actually get a vendor out to take a look at,
The other complicating factor is that in order to put together a plan, you have to actually sit down and kind of go through, what are we actually going to do if we're gonna.
What do we cover?
Let go of the Keltron system.
but aren't we definitely letting go of the Caltron system?
Well,
Isn't
that's the indication, so, but again, this is one option that, potentially others that could be deployed as, as a method of dealing with this. This is a subscription service, as I understand it, sort of like essentially outsourcing the fire alarm capacity. Our stations are covered, and by insurance. And certainly we can talk to Primex about this too and get a take from them.
Yeah, I'm sure that
on-
insurance
on
is
what
not gonna
the-
wanna hear that we don't have alarmed buildings.
No, I understand that, but in terms of, lack of coverage or anything like
Yeah.
that, I don't know that it presents us with a particular issue, a specific issue, but I'd have to ask that question.
Right.
Is this something that, a conversation with the fire department could harden up, or are they pretty much throwing it into your lap and you're doing the research? Sort of that.
It seems to be in my lap, without an indefinite answer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I haven't really had a chance to do much more than try to get a number for budget.
Do we have anybody on the committee have an opinion on the scale versus what we're trying to do? I mean, we're just, Corey and I, these guys had a lot of other things that they were trying to answer from us. This was probably way down the list because it hadn't been vetted or hardened up as a scope. So we're sort of working on the fly here, so I'd love to get some input from people. Tom?
Yeah, these are just opinions, so ignore them. I wonder.
We're volunteers, that's all we
I
have,
don't
Tom.
wanna vote.
I really wonder, what the fire department's role in this is relative to the Keltron system, so that's number one. Number two, I worry that, much like when you discover things related to safety in your home, and suddenly you can't get your home insured anymore if you find knob and tube wiring in your house, it'd be, I'd be concerned about, if you suddenly decide that you're not meeting very basic standards, that you're going to be in jeopardy that way. Never mind the fire safety and the loss, just the insurability, I worry about that. And the last thing, which is why I was putting up my hand, is, and it's probably so hard to figure this out on the fly, is, in conversations that I had in a totally different concept, I wonder about our communication with these buildings in general, when we've had conversations about monitoring equipment, and I don't know the lingo so well, but I think it's the SCADA stuff that we're talking about, that the question has been raised as to whether we need to be running fiber out to these buildings as a town. But that's getting into the weeds way beyond my area of expertise. But to me, I just wonder whether there is overlap between our monitoring requirements from a technologic point of view, and whether that ties in with, whether that could tie in with the fire alarm requirements, and so whether the town ought to be looking at, and I don't know how you do that in an expeditious way, but ought to be looking at, some kind of a hardwired system, presumably fiber, but something like that. So I just wanted to throw that out for consideration before you make any big decisions. And yet it sounds like we need to do something pretty quickly.
I was just curious, Matthew, are you gonna be able to get something more definitive by the time the recommendation committee sends the budget to the select board?
When is that?
Well, ostensibly, after Monday, the 18th, but we do have some time before they actually look at it, and we could, we can always sort of put in a number, and then if there's a better number by January, then, I don't think anybody on the committee would have we're all sort of flying blind here. We're just trying to, it's a $30,000 ask without a lot of backup. And we understand that this has been thrown at you, so we're just trying to get an idea, is this a real number, or is there something else that maybe we put in as a placeholder and see how it goes, and then if we need to shuffle budget around, later in the year, then we do that. Don?
Again, this is a fire alarm system, right?
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah, it's not communication, it's
We need-
fire.
And the one we have now is not supported by EFD. Fire department really, there needs to be coordination between our fire department and you guys, a lot better than what we've had now. We don't want, we shouldn't be moving forward without the fire department saying, oh, yeah, but you know what, that's gonna be outdated in a couple of years. I think this needs a coordinated effort. It's gonna be done sooner than later, but I don't wanna move forward and find out, oh, that was a stopgap we just did because we were pressed for time. We're gonna have to redo it in 2 years. I think the fire department and their requirements need to get together with whatever facilities and say, what are the, you know, how they dovetail? There's gotta be some coordination, and I don't think we should move forward.
Well, I made some change, as the 2-year construction of the wastewater plant happened. I already have a situation where the main pump station came online with a Keltron box, but I've already switched to an on-call for the wastewater plant, knowing that, and I have those Keltron boxes sitting on the shelf that are obsolete.
That's terrible.
Well, I guess to
Oh,
Don,
good on you.
to Donnie's point, I think,
Put them together.
you know, I think between now and,
I'll
when
do
would
my
we be
best.
meeting with the select board, Russ? Probably sometime mid-January, or? do you
Well,
guys-
we'll begin, the select board will begin their review of the budget, the first meeting in December, so around December 2nd or 3rd. I apologize, I don't have a good, understanding yet about why the Keltron system is being sort of phased out.
Well, how about we do
I
this?
really don't, I mean, I understand that the fire department's talked about the technology changes and things like that. I will say that this is not new construction. I mean, a lot of the pump stations, the lift stations that we have weren't built yesterday. They're older, so I
Right.
can see where technology changes could initiate a change in how we need to do the fire alarm, but system with those stations. But it's just not clear to me yet why the Keltron needs sort of an instant phase out and change out. So
I wonder if-
I apologize for not having more information on that, but we just don't.
I mean, timing is, I think that's the problem, is that the timing doesn't work with the budget cycle. So I think the subcommittee with, our recommendation is to make it 0 and spend the next 4 to 6 weeks trying to get better information. If we have to amend it at the
Right.
select board level, then let's do that. But I think everybody here, as well as the ratepayers, would appreciate the due diligence to get the right number.
Right, and whether it's a
I think.
wireless system or some other alternative
Exactly.
that exists out there.
And we have the safety net of reserves to, you know, this isn't $500,000. I mean, it's an affordable expense, but if it's a $10,000 or $12,000 expense versus 30, or if the fire department has got some other ideas, then I think it's worth
That's what
getting
the
into.
reserves are for.
I'm sorry?
Good point, that's a good
That's
point.
what I was
That's
gonna
the
ask,
reserves
is
are for.
are reserves possible
Right,
to use?
so is that, I mean, does everybody have a comfort factor?
I mean, it's tough, I mean, you're in a spot, it's a project that needs to be done imminently, and you're under the gun to get it done, and we're looking for real numbers, which, you know, it's not like you've had 8 months to do this, so, yeah, if we have some flexibility around funds available, or getting numbers closer to select board
Okay.
review, then I think that's the way to go as well.
I think, and again, I think my hesitation in diving right into the solution that was priced out had to do with the fact that it's an ongoing subscription and payment to a third-party vendor, and I'd want to spend some time and really understand, is that something we absolutely
Agreed.
have to do?
Agreed.
And pay what amounts to a subscription price, you know, every month to have an outside entity monitoring our fire.
I mean,
alarm
don't get us wrong,
at
we
the
were,
stations.
we gave these guys, Matt especially, credit for at least having the foresight to make this a line item, which is great, because it is going to have to be dealt with. And he put in an analysis based on what he knew at the time. We just, I think, need to get a little more information and harden up the numbers. So it's good that it's in there. It will probably be something, but we want to make sure it's the right something. Dan?
Yeah, I think to reiterate that, we just need a number, I think. There's no, we obviously need fire monitoring services in our pump stations, especially for insurance purposes. My thought is this, I guess it's more clerical than anything. Is this more of like a capital outlay type item? you'll be putting this towards the end of the budget for a capital outlay, and I don't know if this is gonna be something that repeats year after year, but, I don't know what the phase-out situation is.
Well, I think the way Matt's got it calculated is that there will probably be a monthly charge, the way it's calculated right now. Again, we have to vet out exactly what the service is, so,
Yes.
but the way he has it now, it would be an ongoing operational expense. If it ends up being a one-shot deal, then it would be capital outlay, but as of the way it stands now, it's an annual operational expense.
It's a
Is
small-
that,
it's a small one.
that's fair to say?
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
Okay,
Talking 10
so let's proceed.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
So next was down to 55188, which is the meter and backflow. A little bit of history, we took a bond out a number of years ago to get up to speed on replacing our water meters in town. 2019 was the last bond payment year on the water meter bond. Department's now looking to bring the yearly replacement of meters into the water department operating budget. I think we talked loosely that replacing them all would be about a 10-year endeavor with an annual investment of around $110,000. However, we suggested just flatlining this line to the 2019 budget amount of $80,000 and picking away, given the amount of things that are in this budget. Make some progress, but maybe not it's kind of like the paving in a way, right? We do what we can and it looks pretty good.
So the history of the water meters. 5 or 6 years ago,
Thank
we
you.
bonded approximately how much,
$750,000.
$50,000. Now, I must have misunderstood years ago, but I thought that was to swap out all of the meters,
It was for half,
about 3,500 meters that we have in total?
Yes.
4,000?
35.
3,500. So that was not to swap them all out.
It was to replace about half and then some, just the heads on a bunch of others, but it wasn't 100% change out for the whole system.
So do all of them have to be changed out? How did we decide which
No.
ones were to be changed out?
So we've got about
I
half
guess-
left. And so that's what they're trying to do, is to do the remaining half over the next 10 years. The 750 was a jump start to get all of the old meters, to at least get some of them up to newer technology. And now we've had for the last several years, a 10-year plan. I think we're 3 years into or maybe a little less, maybe 2 years into a 10-year plan.
So,
Two things I remember. I remember the
Amount,
project we're doing this.
yes.
And also I remember someone who's not here this evening, saying that that's $750,000 because most of the meters are undercharging, and it will pay for itself within a few years. Has that happened? No,
I don't know.
no, it hasn't.
Okay.
So here we've there's kind of a twist of that story back about 5 or 6 years ago, that replacing the meters was gonna pay for itself. It really hasn't. And I'm just wondering now, what is the driving force for having to change out half of the remaining meters in town?
Well,
That's my question.
I think our answers
I'm
are the
directing it to
same.
the chair, but.
I think our answers
you
are
can
the same, but
counter-
I'll let Jen go.
so I want everybody to understand the basics of, it's really important that the water meters are accurate. These are the cash registers for both the water and the sewer utilities. Rates are going up. People are starting to question more and more their bills and understanding what their water usage and sewer production is. There are standards that we try to adhere to, industry standards. The American Water Works Association recommends that all meters are changed on a 10-year basis. So when we did our upgrade of the water meter units back, and I don't know what the year was, 2014, it wasn't necessarily to change all the bodies, the physical moving part of the meter. It was to change the registration head so that the heads, we could use an automated meter reading system. We can get very detailed information. It's an electronic encoding system. When you see those abatement requests come before you with a very detailed information laid out that shows, water was flowing every 15 minutes and what that flow rate was, that was a product of those new encoder heads. The actual meter, the body, the brass underneath, wasn't all replaced. So we're
Right.
still on a 10-year, we should be doing, if you think 10-year replacement, that's 10%
Right.
of our stock replaced every year is where we want to get. If we're doing 10% of all of our meters every year, we're going to be that's where we should be. That's a reasonable goal for us to be in continuous replacement of meters.
So 340 to 350 a year.
Yeah.
If you have 3,500 meters out there
Right.
in the system. I just wanted to add too, that when we did the water meter replacement program, and it was 2014, that yes, it was 750,000, but one of the driving forces too behind making that call as far as doing the large scale changeovers that we did was that we got 20% back on that from New Hampshire DES. So they paid for 20% of that 750,000, and then it was a 5-year payback at not even 1% interest rate it ended up being. So it was a great, if you call it a catch-up, it was a great catch-up for us. Because prior to that, we really did have an aging meter system.
And a lot of the meters, we have to read by hand. Now we can do it remotely very quickly, and we can send out notices to people so that they're not, waiting until the end of the quarter before they have a realization that they even have a leak. I mean,
Bob, I understand
Yeah.
that, but my question is then that we can only do that for half the meters. Because we can only remotely read half the
and
meters, the new ones.
And that's the
or the new heads,
point
I
of
should say.
this. And
All right?
what Corey and I thought, instead of increasing this budget, is that we would level fund it so that we could keep chipping away at it without going, in our minds, overboard. I think the department would disagree with that terminology. But, just looking back at the history, when we started the bond, we were spending about 55 to 60 some odd $1,000 a year on meter, replacement. It actually went down, I think, between 16 and 17. Now we went from 75 up to 80 last year. So we thought that level funding that at 80 and continuing an aggressive but not overly aggressive program to keep with AWWA standards we felt that was reasonable. So that was the justification for keeping it at 80, but not increasing it.
Does that program still exist today by any chance, or where we could get 20% or some portion back from?
They've reduced it down to a 5% debt forgiveness, but with this.
But we're not doing debt anymore.
Right,
we're just-
no, but I mean, if you were to rethink the whole project again and just do a second round.
Right, I don't think so. That was a program.
That was
we were fortuitous. I think we did, not just that, but the groundwater plant, we got 20%.
Yeah, we got
back
20% off of that,
debt
too.
forgiveness on that as well.
Same time frame, Dan?
You don't,
So you've got a budget for 2019 of $80,000. As of August, we had spent $65,000. Do we have an updated spend on that? And are we gonna be over budget on this line item this year?
There's $3,000 left, and it'll be gone.
Matt, just for clarification, as you're doing them now, are you replacing the guts of it as
The
well?
whole thing, yeah, I'm not in the business of doing half of them.
You're
It's
not doing
now-
the tops only?
Because I'm not really getting the deal that we got. The only reason why we were
Yeah.
able to do it like that is because we were doing a big,
Yeah.
I could order a lot.
Yeah.
But to just order one at a time now, there's no.
And that's a bigger
upgrade.
job, because you gotta remove, they're in line with your plumbing, so you gotta
Yeah, pull it
take
right
the whole
out.
thing out and put it in, right?
Yep.
Okay. Whereas with the original program, you were just popping the top off.
Yeah, with the
I'm
original
making it
program,
sound
we
easy.
either pulled the top off and saved the base, or the whole thing came out, and that's
Yeah.
where we did half of each.
It's about a half-hour job.
Jen, was some component of this budget was for backflow as well, so
Correct.
we're not just gonna spend 80,000 on meters, right?
Correct. No, it includes backflow preventers, brass fittings for all the meter parts. We do you know, we have to install a meter in residential plumbing, so we have to provide all the fittings that make that connection.
Any other questions on that line? Corey?
So the next line is 55235, pump station and towers. Stadium well rehabilitation for 17,500 was in the 19 budget. As of the time of our meeting with the department, the work hadn't been performed yet. An additional 17.5 is included in the 2020 budget. The comment's the same, maybe it's a different well we're talking about though. But our bigger concern was unless we were gonna get to stadium well this year, did it make sense to put another 17.5 into the budget for next year, knowing we didn't get to it this year?
So yes, I'm under contract to get stadium well done this year. It'll probably be happening in the next couple of weeks, so
Excellent.
we would like to just change this note to Gilman well. Still, that would be their third well. And then we'd be kind of, have them all done for the next 3 to 5 years until they'd need something maybe again.
Excellent. So that line will be spent with Stadium Well this year,
That's correct.
and Gilman will be done next year.
Correct.
Perfect. So we would,
We'll just,
when we get to that point, that budget would revert back to the 41,950. Correct?
that's right, yep. That was the end of water distribution, if anybody had any questions beyond. Down to treatment, again, wages, we're up about $9,700, again, due to contract increases. From there, jumping down to 55368, which is basin/lagoon cleaning. Department is looking to clean the lagoon in 2020. The last cleaning was approximately 2010. Department indicated that the lagoon cleaning should occur every 3 to 5 years. We talked about heavy buildups of aluminum in the lagoons, and we just wanted to discuss that a little further. We were at the time, I think, looking for an actual quote on that to make sure the number was good.
Yeah, I think that's really what it came down to, is we hadn't done it
Where
in
the-
10 years or so. The last time we did it, I look back, I think it was around $28,000. Obviously, it was 10 years ago, so that may not be even an applicable comparison, but just was wondering if you had had any kind of a conversation or a kind of a quote on that, so we could just harden up the number.
I've requested one, and I don't have one at this time, but I've dealt with so much sludge lately, it seems like I felt like trying to get a placeholder on this. Historically, we've been able to truck it over to our old Lagoon 4, but we do not have that anymore. So unfortunately, I'm just trying to get a number on the budget. The lagoon is overgrown and has sludge. I can certainly try to make some calls again to try to get someone over there to give us a harder number, but it's a waste lagoon that I basically can't see it because it's overgrown with Cat9 tails, and it probably has 2 feet of sludge in it from water treatment plant treatment processes. So like the note says, there's probably some aluminums in it. There's probably, I don't know who would take it. I don't know if a recycling company can take it. So we've made a few calls, but we haven't gotten a hard number yet.
This is the service water treatment plant?
That's correct.
Oh, no.
So if we don't clean it out, I mean, we're continuing adding
Yeah.
sludge to it.
Yep.
So it just, it's just gonna be more at some point.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure who took it in 2010. Do you remember, Matt?
Rome Construction.
Rome.
What happens when it is full like this is we're pushing some of that sludge out into the sewer collection system.
Right.
So that's ultimately winding up at the new wastewater treatment plant, which really isn't the ideal way for that to run. We need to do a regular cleaning of that, 3 to 5 years. It is hard to always predict, but the lagoon really needs to capture those solids and keep them in the lagoon. We should not be pushing that out into the collection system.
It basically gets pumped twice,
Yeah,
3 times.
yeah, very,
So there's electrical costs
yeah,
associated
very
with
inefficient.
redoing.
Yeah.
But we don't know where it'll be shipped to, though.
We don't know
That's
what cost.
correct. I don't even know the exact price yet, so 50 might not be enough.
Is it just trouble finding a
That's not what we
contractor?
wanna hear.
They're all busy?
We've made a couple calls and just some no lack of response
Yeah.
or lack of, or follow-up and got doing something else, so, I will kind of push that.
Matt, I'm sorry, does DES have standards or regulations that we have to adhere to with cleaning out that sludge, you know?
Certainly depending upon what constituents are found in it, it will get determined as to where it can go. So whether a recycling center like an ERCO can use it, or if it's gotta go all the way up to waste management as a hazardous material, not sure. We did take some preliminary samples of the sludge, so we do have some characteristics of it, but we haven't really, so no one's really vetted it out as to where to put it yet.
So, 2 years ago, and I'm trying to remember if we had to take money out of this budget for something related to the TTHMs, but we had a budget of $49,000 in FY '18 that was supposed to be for the lagoon as well as the groundwater treatment plant, the basin underneath the plant, that we didn't want that to get too full because that was actually in an enclosed area. And according to our numbers, we spent 40% of that, presumably to do something.
Groundwater plant was done through an outside company initially, and then we recognized that that was just too expensive to have their truck sitting there. We took samples of the sludge and all and recognized that it didn't really need to get hauled away, so we do that one in-house now.
Okay, so we didn't
So we didn't do the surface water
Okay.
plant. Something else must have come up. I couldn't really put my finger on it today and tonight, but.
Well, as someone who is somewhat in the business, I mean, going 10 years when something should be done every 3 to 5 years is not the best way to, to run your operation. I would maybe float out there, since we did approve a budget of $29,000 2 years ago, that at least we put that number in because something's going to have to be done. And without the groundwater plant, since we've done that, then we can focus on the surface water plant. Is that,
Sure.
Sludge removal is an issue that we have to
we're gonna have to
deal with, whether
right.
it's wastewater or water treatment.
I mean, again, our intent of zeroing this out wasn't to make it zero, it was to elicit conversation.
Yeah.
And just going back over my notes, we did approve it 2 years ago. We should at least put that number back in, and it appears like if we would have spent that, in addition to the 20,000 we did spend, then that would have been the budget. So that
I would agree.
would be, I think, a reasonable, I mean, and if it's more, if what it is what it
We'll talk.
is. So at least it gets us in there, so
Certainly.
29,000, so we'll put that in for future, is that
Well,
sound reasonable?
well,
Make
do
it
the-
30
we'll do
round
the line
and
items.
just make it 29.
Let's make it 30
So-
round, since we don't know what the number is.
Exactly 21,000.
We're just gonna make it 30.
We're just gonna make it 30 round.
Yeah. So that drops it by 20.
We'll do some more research, see if I can get something by
Just
the next
another
couple
thing on
weeks.
the list to do, right?
Well, yeah, at this point, we're gonna put money in, and then whatever it is, we'll deal with it at that time,
Maybe
so.
we'll have to build a sludge down.
Well,
Well, be careful.
I
You'll
know.
have another permit to have.
so, Corey, proceed.
Yep.
Well, we can ship it to Lowell like they do the, from,
Go ahead.
the Rochester
So-
plant.
55105, just a note, equipment maintenance, there was 23,000 of a $46,000 budget spent when we met. Matt let us know that they've had to transfer some money into that account, and he's got about $2,500 left in it at the time. So suffice it to say, the line will be spent. They're just getting a better handle on what the maintenance need of the groundwater treatment plant is now that it's 3 years old, or 3 years plus. So these numbers are just kind of coming into focus.
But still, that budget is up, $18,000 from last year, am I correct?
Well, most of that is the Clearwell work, because with the taking out of the dam, the intake of the river, that, you know, that whole dynamic is now, we've had a couple of years to actually see how that goes. And the Clearwell, well, you can explain the details of it, but there are certain components of the surface water plant that, you know, just things have changed, you know, since we took the dam out, and we just operate the system differently. At one point, the surface water plant did everything. Now the groundwater plant does some, and at certain times of the year does a lot, but the surface water plant is still there, but we don't have the dam with the impoundment. So the whole hydrology of what we're dealing with is different, and there are some costs that we're becoming aware of. But if you want to get into some more specifics.
Yeah. I think probably the most significant is the Clearwell at the surface water treatment plant does need to be cleaned every so often. It needs to be taken offline, washed down. It can, if it, you know, just like any tank that sits for any amount of time, materials do accumulate. We also have a lot of corrosion in that particular tank, and that's where the finished water pumps withdraw from, and those pump impellers and casings are in really poor condition. So we do need to get in there. That's probably the biggest piece of.
Do you have that picture?
So-
Yeah, is that where that picture came from?
So it would be accurate to say that most of the increased maintenance is with the old surface water treatment plant, not the new plant.
This particular line that
Yeah,
was
maintenance.
$15,000 was for that Clearwell
Okay. Thank you.
piece.
So if anyone wants to pass this
Yes.
around, there's some pictures of some of the parts and pieces that are coming out of this clear well. There's not supposed to be holes. And then if they look at the other picture, those are the bolts and bolts. So that's what's coming out of the clear well, some of the old equipment.
So this would probably be a one-time
Barnacles.
add-on, and that the budget presumably would go back down next year. That, you know, we've just decided to lump a lot of the treatment maintenance costs into this line.
Did I understand you to say, this maybe is more a question to you, but you said it, Bob, that taking out the dam has had an effect on the surface water plant? Is
Well,
that what I understood you
because
to
we have an
say?
intake up,
You have to lower the intake.
up the river.
The river intake, the
Because
river
there's a
pump
river
station.
intake above where the dam used to
Correct.
be that runs over to the surface water plant.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's called the river pump station. It's up near where the rope swing is. Oop, that's,
Rope swing's still there?
I know where you're talking about. Okay.
it's in that general,
It's right across from Gilman Park.
yeah, right
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Gilman
no,
Park.
I understand.
And then there's a pipe that runs down to the plant on Portsmouth Avenue. And actually, when we took the dam out, if you remember, it was coincident with one of the worst droughts we've had in decades.
Right.
And there were actually eddies above the intake pipe
I know.
because the river water was, or the level was so low.
Well, we did take that opportunity to lower the intake pipe.
Yes, we did.
Well, not the intake, the intake.
We did.
How big is the pipe, just out of curiosity, that goes across town to the plant?
8-inch?
The transmission line, it's probably like a 12 or 16 inch main.
That big, huh?
Yeah, it's I think,
I think it's, but
it's 12 and it parallels, the water main going down Portsmouth Ave.
If Harry Thayer was still with us, it would still be too small. That's my tribute to Harry for tonight.
There you go.
He was a great advocate for large water lines.
Yes.
Because he wanted to make sure the fire department had enough
Yeah,
water.
Yeah.
More water.
Go ahead, Corey.
Okay, so next line down is 55294, supplies, labor, equipment, which is up by $11,000. I'm gonna defer to Bob when it gets into some of the language, but chem scan reagents are up $8,000, which is new to this budget and needed in both of the plants. Also, we're doing more testing of our distribution points, am I saying that right?
That's
So there's
correct.
testing involved, there's new age chemicals
Well,
involved.
everyone got those dunning notices on our water quality for 3 years or 2.5 years, so we've fixed that. We spent $1.2 million, we fixed it, and we've switched over from a primarily chlorine system to a chloramine system, non-chlorine based. Just means a whole nother set of chemicals and testing protocols and that sort of thing. So the good news is we won't be having disinfection byproducts, but it does increase the budget because it's a different type of testing.
And are we meeting our standards of the latest tests?
Yes, we just made the announcement last Monday night at the board meeting that we are in compliance, so there won't be notices of violation going out at this point. Yeah, it's a great celebration for us too,
Yes.
and I'm sure the consumers are thrilled, but we'll be putting out more formal notices, we just haven't, yeah.
Well, some of the consumers were concerned because they thought the elevated levels had a health issue, a health problem. So they should
It was
be
legit.
ecstatic that, that is, now meeting the new federal standards in compliance. So very good. So took a long time to get there, I know that, and then you guys did a great job getting there, helping us get there, so that's good news, thank you. Now we get the PF.
PFOS,
Yeah, something to
just
take-
come right back in.
So 55270, software equipment / contracted services, we agreed, or the department agreed with us to reduce that line by $5,000. And I can't remember what our conversation was around that. That was like the first day we met.
I just think it was.
We weren't gonna
hadn't
do the
really
water.
Spent it, and, you know, I think it was, at one point, it needed to be elevated because of the new plant coming online, and we were concerned, so with us not spending it, and I don't foresee needing to have too many consultants, because the new, SCADA system just got put in, so I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, that reference to the hydraulic model, water map, that's not gonna happen, so.
No, thank you.
Again, you see under treatment, we have the fire alarm communication. We talked about that for $2,400. That would be a reduction. Next line is 55161, lab testing. Is up by $7,500. The majority of this increase relates to quarterly testing for PFOA and PFAS. The town has received notification from the state regarding the need to begin quarterly testing. Also includes funds for lead and copper sampling.
Where do we send out, where does the testing take place, Matt? Concord?
Nope, we use a lab out in Pennsylvania, there's probably a sheet, there's only a few, labs that are accredited to do these tests. A lot of them are starting to come up, but we use a lab. When we first started initially testing the wastewater side, we used 2 different labs just because we wanted to see the validity of each person's testing. Now the testing's getting a little bit more formalized now that it's gaining traction, so we're using that same company that we kind of have some confidence in.
So the state has imposed new standards, but
Yes.
they don't do the testing of the standards they imposed.
No.
They expect all water distribution municipalities to find their own testing labs, right?
Correct.
Wow.
And no
That's
funding
worse than an unfunded
for it.
mandate.
Yeah, right, it's a,
Well, it's a very specialized testing with incredibly low detection levels. I mean, we're talking parts per trillion, and nanograms per liter. It's really important that you use the best lab And that was one of the reasons Matt was alluding to the fact that we had concerns about quality assurance side. We want to make sure that we're not getting,
Yeah.
elevated levels that we shouldn't be getting due to sampling and/or testing procedures. So we've been pleased with the lab that we've selected, and we want to continue to use them. I'm sure over the years, there'll be more that will be available, but for now, it's still pretty early with extremely low levels that we're talking about.
We're now the lowest in the nation, right?
I believe so, at
yeah.
least for 2 of them.
Yeah.
There are 4 compounds that we have to monitor.
And you're right, the other states may have to go in the same compliance as time goes on. Thank you.
Okay, moving to page 5, top 55034, chemicals. We have a one-time bump of $15,000 related to replacing the filter media at the groundwater treatment plant. In discussions, we discussed that media should be replaced every 5 years. We just felt like, given the age of the groundwater treatment plant, we'll be coming up on 5 years, I think, at the end of next year, or the fourth quarter next year, that we could, if we're talking about finding ways to reduce this budget, push this off unless there was some real compelling reason to do this right now.
So these are what we call pressure green sand filters. The water, it's not like in the surface water treatment plant where it's an open container. This is a closed vessel that contains the filter media. And when we do a backwash of that filter, a small amount of that filter media comes out every time. And over time, you have to top off that vessel. We've been doing that regularly. We had purchased a pallet of that green sand material. I don't know how many bags,
Yeah, I don't know how many bags.
but a pallet of the material. And we've gone through that pallet since we opened the facility. So we need to get another pallet of that media. It's not, you're not gonna see it every year. We don't go through that much of it, but every couple of years, we're gonna need to buy a pallet and be able to top off those filters. So that's why you see it this year. I don't think we did it. We didn't, I don't think it was clear in our explanation. I hope that helps.
And I do have an updated budget from Paul, just on chemicals, was $105,700.
That was his,
That was just his chemicals without this $15,000 increase. So,
Sorry, Matt,
What's-
could you repeat
Year to
that
date,
number?
105,700.
it's 86,544 year to date.
So when was the last time we bought that pallet, in 18?
I believe it was when we started the facility.
So we got it in 15 or early 16?
Probably.
Maybe 16, 17.
Yeah.
We put 9 inches of material back in one of them just the other day. I don't know how many bags that equated to, but my guess is like 20 to 30 bags. So it's necessary for them to function properly.
so we're out of sand, basically.
We're out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have come with a plan, because looking at that budget going back to 16, it doesn't look like there was
It could have.
any kind of incredible bump.
And this year, we have a whole new ammonium sulfate to buy with the chloramine, so that's where you're seeing, Paul's estimating about 13,500 just for that.
Well,
I'd say give it.
what's,
I mean, I can try to make it all work with a level fund. Because bids are coming back. I don't know what that climate's kind of gonna be, and I just did the bid package for chemicals, and the wastewater treatment plant's no longer a part of that package, so I don't know what it's gonna do to the prices.
So what was the 105?
and a pallet is $15,000?
That's what Paul's coming up with, yes. It's green sand plus, it's a specialized,
Wow.
material.
Yeah, it oxidizes iron and manganese, and that's also where we're co-precipitating out the arsenic, the low levels of arsenic, so it's, yeah.
Well, that's information that we
Yeah, what was,
did not have.
what was the 105,700 number? That was what it,
Paul's estimated chemical line,
for the lines.
but
which
just
is-
chemicals.
Yeah,
That's
right.
where I think I came up with the initial 105, and then he got me a little bit late on the 15. And then I asked him to refine, I think we included that, and I asked him to refine his number, and he came up with this.
So in reality, the budget should be 120,000.
Should be, but I think, you know, depending upon how the bids come back, depending upon, you know, treatment, so, I don't know, I mean, I'm not quite spent all the way, I think we have a couple more,
Or close.
Well, according to
orders.
Doreen, you're close.
Yeah, we're close, but I think he's probably just a chlorine delivery away, you know, that's probably my last, delivery of the year, is my guess.
Of chlorine,
Yeah, I think that's that, and I
and then
can't,
that'll be it.
and that'll probably be about it, is my guess.
Well, I think I might be inclined to leave the 15 then, given that we are truly out of.
This was information because there were a lot of balls in the air. So the aspect that we actually ran out of the material, we thought that it was a wholesale media replacement, and we just didn't have that information. So I guess
I would agree
we
with
would
that.
recommend of keeping the budget the way they have suggested at 105,000.
Thank you.
Okay,
I would like to propose one thing. We were asked at the last meeting to update fuel costs. And so in the treatment, on the water treatment side, we requested 2,000.
Mm-hmm.
That can be reduced to 1,860.
So what is that? Oh, that's for the truck?
Yes.
Anything, does natural gas, electricity, does that change at all?
I don't have any updates for those at this point. But I would like to go back to distribution, if we could.
Yeah,
Sorry, to the what?
distribution.
And the fuel line there, underwater distribution 55128, that could be reduced to 9,300.
What was the number again, Jen?
9,300
Underwater
is what she said.
Yeah,
Water distribution 55194, excuse me, I did give you the wrong number. Thank you. 55128, that $10,000 can be reduced to 9,300.
thank you.
What's the year-to-date on that 55128 distribution, Doreen?
$89.45. But I believe that's at a different contract rate, is that correct for this
Yes.
year?
Yeah, we do have a new contract, and it's approximately, I've assumed 7% lower numbers.
I mean, we're talking about a difference of about $800.
Yep.
My inclination is just to keep them as is for $800. That would be my feeling. I appreciate you looking into it, and thank you, but I thought for $10,000, we're gonna be down around 7 or something. That, I mean, I'm willing
We could
to
hope.
go a different way, but that would be my inclination. Well, we can entertain a motion if someone feels compelled to do that. Why don't we go to capital outlay, Corey?
yep. All right, so this is where the real hard decisions got made for us, at least, because, you know, there is no shortage of projects that are worthy or vehicles that may need replacing, but, and this won't be the last time I say this, but as far as vehicles are concerned, 57009, there were a number of guess there were 2 or 3 vehicles between the departments, water and sewer, that they were looking to replace this year, and we would just recommend one for the department, and we're gonna recommend one replacement for sewer as well. You know, it's a big increase, overall in the budgets, and we just feel like we gotta slow it down a little bit somewhere, and this is one of those lines. And I think 42 was the average of, you know, one of the vehicles. And then the second line, 57015, is water system capital, and this is a bunch of small, you know, $50,000 projects or so that the department needs to get done at some point. So Bob and I suggested that perhaps we do a couple of them this year, again, slowing down the pace, and then pick up the next ones in the next year. There was, you know, not that we're in the business of making recommendations as to what the department does for projects, but one project that could save when we get down to warrants is a modulating valve for $50,000. I'll let these guys describe what a modulating valve is, but big picture is there are water pressure issues up on Hampton Road, and one idea that the department came up with is putting a modulating valve in to try to balance out those pressure variances. And if it works, then it could save us down in the warrant articles $100,000 for booster station modifications.
Do you want me to speak to that?
Yeah,
Sure.
if you have, yeah, sure.
So modulating valve is basically currently, the new hydraulic grade line that Epping Road Tower provides us, created us a situation at Hampton Road Tower where we have to pump the water out, to get the water out. If we didn't have a pump system there, the water wouldn't come out of that tower efficiently. So because of that, when we pump out the water, when those pumps turn on and the tower starts to fill, it's like a complete inrush of water, almost to the point of a hydrant flow. So it kind of steals all the water in the distribution system, and if we don't time that right, there's people that may not be able to have their shower work on their second floor at the wrong time in the morning, because everyone's using water and we're trying to fill our tower, and it's just the worst case scenario. So we've tried to modify how we fill and when we pump out, but we also think, to Corey's point, rather than building a whole pump station and creating a whole nother pressure zone, we thought by maybe a smaller investment to see if we could create a modulating valve that we can control so that it's not a hydrant flow filling it anymore, it's more of a paced flow. And then if we have to let it really fill, we have the ability to do that with SCADA control, and we can manipulate it so it fills at a different time of night when there's lower demand, excuse me. So that's the idea of the modulating valve. And we have hired an engineering firm to get that investigation started so that, you know, by the time budget season potentially rolls around and warrant passes and stuff, we'll be ready to go.
Is that a modulating valve at the tower?
It would be at the tower somehow in the pit or in the, you know.
So, okay, so we have 2 other towers. We have the main tower,
Epping Road.
Evan Road. Do we need one there too, or is that?
No, that's the one that's driving
That's
the whole.
that's the main one.
Yeah.
What about the one up off of Crossroad?
Crossroad.
That one, no, that one floats with the system and doesn't have an issue with the water not coming out.
It's essentially, if you think, I know
Gravity.
sometimes we speak engineer, and I
Sorry.
apologize,
Sorry.
but the hydraulic grade line is essentially the elevation of the water in the system. And the Epping Road tank and the Crossroad Tower are at the same elevation.
Yeah.
Hampton Road is
Is lower.
down here, and so we have to force the water out, so it doesn't just sit there, we've gotta pump it out. And when the valve's shut and it comes back on to fill, that's when part of the problem is too.
As the old adage says, water flows downhill.
Yes.
Plus the way we fill the tank now, we used to have a lot of stagnant water in the tank, and now we sort of can't do that because of some of the byproduct issues we've had. So we cycle the water through quicker, so it stays fresh. We weren't violating any standards before. That's the way a lot of people did it, but we're not doing that anymore. So this valve and the pressure issues needed to be addressed. The questions we had, and this is a pretty drastic cut, but it looked to us, you had in your recoating metal surfaces in Clearwell, but that showed up in equipment maintenance in another thing. Is that a different reference to work in the Clearwell?
That's correct. The reference of $15,000 is inspections of the Clearwell, river intake, and Crossroad Tower. This is basically those pictures that you saw, the metal surfaces that are inside
Oh,
that.
okay.
So it was trying to recoat as much as I could to see if that was part of the cleaning and recoating. The other ones are more inspections.
So I'm trying to read my notes here. Is it true that what's year to date on this 57015? My notes say like 150,000. Is that true?
I have $384 left in this line item.
Okay, so out of the 100,000.
Yeah, I've earmarked $28,000. If you remember, last year, we put the fiber line in this. I'm still waiting for an updated quote from the fire department to try to get this spent this year. Otherwise, I'm gonna try to encumber it. But I've tried, I'm working with the fire chief right now and trying to get an updated quote so that this money can be spent this year. It's also using some groundwater treatment plant money that I've been holding on to, that's been earmarked for fiber line too. So I'm working diligently to try to get this done this year.
Well, I guess our general consensus was that $100,000 for water system capital, it's a round number. It's worked for years. It's given them a nice pot of money to fix things and to replace things. There's a lot on the list. You know, like with the maintenance projects, we could do far more than $100,000 of the maintenance projects, but you've got to, we draw the line somewhere. So that's what we're doing here. There's probably a lot more that could be done, but again, we do have the safety net of reserves if there's a catastrophe or something like that. So we felt that from a budgeting perspective, we had a couple of those items specifically, the Clearwell items and the modulating valve, and thought we would go with that. So that was our thinking.
Okay, so that $100,000, which is the budget subcommittee recommendation for capital outlay, am I right?
Correct.
That would include putting in the modulating system.
That'll be one of the,
That would be one of the
Okay,
things
okay.
that they
I
would
didn't know
do.
if you were saying that if we wanted to do that, we put another 50 in, okay.
No.
Thank you.
and again, I would just
Clear.
say, we weren't looking to tell them what projects are important, but that seemed like
But
it
that
was one
seemed
that
to
could
be
save
pretty
us
important.
with the CIP item too.
Thank you.
And I think that's where we started our discussion that day was on those two pieces. So
Bob,
Yes.
if you don't mind, would this be a good time for, is there like a brief one-liner or two-liner you can give us on that reserve fund and how much flexibility that gives you?
Well, currently, the water reserve fund it's in the last page of one of the handouts, second to last page, is a little less than $1.2 million. We have, the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee had set a floor level of $500,000 years ago a do not touch in case some catastrophe came down the line. And the thought was that that would give us about, we like to keep it around $1 million. So that would give us $500,000 of availability if something came up. Maybe we need to take money out to keep the rates down, like we do with the general fund, or something like that. It would just give us flexibility. It's a somewhat of a moving target. Obviously, it's based on how much water people use. So if people use more water, then we make more revenue. So that's why it's $1.2 million instead of around $1 million.
And just educate me on, is that reserve tapped into at the discretion of the advisory committee or the select board, or how does it happen?
Well, the select board has the ultimate decision. We, as an advisory committee, if something came up, and in talking with Russ as the chair, or with Jen, there was a thought that, geez, we really, really could use some money to do this, then we would take it under advisement, and then I would go to the select board meeting, and and we've made those recommendations in the past, and they've generally agreed with our recommendations, but not always, if it's something that, we could muddle through.
Thank you.
But yes, we do have discretion to do that, and that's what that money is for.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was just going to add to that by saying on the front page of the packet we handed out, the Water Sewer Committee actually, Laura in our finance office does these reports for the Water Sewer Advisory Committee every month, and they get copies of this. So if you look at the revenue and the expenses, you can see the pattern, basically from January through December, how expenses occur from month to month. So like, for example, when you look at January, for example, we spend more than we take in. So the fund balance, and that's really what it is, it's an equity position that we can tap into just like the general fund balance. And this at least gives you a sense of the trend. So forecasting this year all the way through, we just changed rates, and obviously the first rate change bills just went out for both water and sewer. These are revised projections as far as where we think we will be at the end of this year in terms of just this year. So as of September 30, the fund balance in water is 1.178 million. And so what that represents is, you can see the revenues and expenses year to date and the net income loss year to date, and basically map that back to, you can see 831 on the front forecast sheet. So that will actually match those revenues and expenses.
The 50,026.
Correct, in deficit for that particular month for August. So the fund balance is reported as of September 30th as of 1.1 million, 1.17.
The reason why the sewer fund is so high is because we artificially bumped up the rates a few years ago so we could have a little savings account. So when we have that big nut next year, we're not shocking people with a 200 or 300% rate increase.
Right.
So we've been building up that fund. It's obviously going to be spent very soon.
Yeah.
And as you can see from the front sheet, that will go down by about $2 million by the end of next year.
Yeah, thanks for educating me.
So why don't we go back to the top, and we'll entertain either further discussion or motions to finalize the water budget.
Okay. All right, so I'm back on page 1 of the subcommittee's report. So the first line that the subcommittee is recommending a decrease to is 55055 consulting services to pull the impact fee assessment in-house. So that would be a $10,000 decrease, bringing the line down to $5,000.
So move.
Tom, thank you. I will second that. Any further discussion on that item? So line 55055 will be level funded at $5,000. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can we get a new benefits total also?
Yes, sorry about that.
What's up?
The new benefits total for water administration is $97,048. Again, that's 97048.
Thank you.
Make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
You guys keep dragging me into voting for something we have no discretion over, but fine. Who seconded
Well, we
that?
can
I
just
did.
keep-
Oh,
I
no,
seconded. She made the
moved it,
motion.
sorry.
Thank you.
Now I'm off.
All those in favor of the new benefits total signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So,
Okay.
a new, I'm
Mr.
sorry?
Chairman? Question regarding conference rooms and meals.
Sure.
It looks like historically this is never really spent out. Wondering why we're continuing funding this at level funding at this point. I don't know if there's plans to spend this in the future, but seems like with other increases, this might be a place where we could balance a little bit.
This is an area that has been underspent in the past, but we do have two new managers, Matt being our new water sewer manager, and he's indicated every intention of wanting to attend a national conference, which I fully support. So I think you'll see that those numbers will be spent down.
So, a new admin total, Doreen, please?
Yes, the new water administration total is $393,870. And again, that's 393870.
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. The billing?
Okay, moving into billing. I guess first we would start with
Benefits?
benefits numbers.
Yeah, the new benefits total for water billing is $44,364. Again, that's 44,364.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you.
We don't have any changes to billing.
No, so total water system billing?
Sure. Total water billing is 179,408. Again, that's 179,408.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Distribution?
Distribution benefits.
Distribution benefits are 135,011, $135,011.
So moved.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
Whoa,
whoa, whoa,
whoa,
whoa.
what?
It went up.
It went from 112 to 135?
That's what I'm seeing here.
Holy cannoli.
Could be a plan change in health
Yeah.
insurance during open enrollment.
Yeah, that would just be one, like, family plan.
Really?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Hmm.
135, what was the number?
135,011.
So that's wonderful. Nance, can I dial you in on that?
I can second now as well.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Yes, so we're now down to the new account fire alarm communication, which we would propose zeroing out for better numbers or for more clarity on it.
So moved.
Second.
is the committee comfortable with if a new number presents itself in the next couple of months, between myself, either myself, Corey, in the department, or myself and the select board, are they comfortable with putting in a number? I'm sorry. Wait, Ton had his hand up first.
Why don't you answer first? I have just a minor, fine point, something that Don did on a different line item. is there any consideration to just making it $1 to make it a placeholder for exactly the reason you just talked about? We're talking about zeroing it out. It's
Yeah.
it's a new line that's.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Is that
I'm
a,
gonna withdraw my,
well, and just make a motion for $1.
to make that line item
And
$1.
Don
I would second.
or Dan,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Okay, and was that your, okay,
That was one.
Okay.
The other was actually, I would be for that if we have fire department input on that, which I'd hope we'd
Oh,
get
yeah.
some crosstalk on that a little bit.
well, again, I think we know it has to be something.
no,
It's
of
just a
course,
question
of
of
course.
making sure that there's the conversation that I think
Yeah.
everybody here is, and the town manager has articulated that that is a requirement, so,
To your question, whether we feel comfortable, I would like to see that recommendation, what it is, go to the entire committee here. And if the committee has any issues with that new potential recommendation, that they only communicate with the chair as to their opinion, not to the rest of the board.
got it. I will make sure that,
So before the action is taken, I would like to make sure the committee has an opportunity to review what that recommendation and dollar number would be.
I will make sure that happens. Thank you for your perspective on that. Further discussion? All those in favor of the fire alarm communication budget of $1 as a placeholder signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I think it goes without saying, you guys know what sort of needs to be done over the next at least month or two. Thank you. And anything else in there? Well, we had the metering.
So 55188, meter and backflow, we're proposing level funding at $80,000.
So moved.
Second. Thanks, Nancy.
All those in favor of a metering budget of 55188 of $80,000 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Fuel?
If you want to make a motion on fuel, go for it, but
Sure,
Any-
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion on 55128 to change to 9,300.
Second?
Comment?
comment.
I thought we had discussed leaving that budget alone, not that I'm opposed.
We had, and
Okay.
I said
Okay.
if someone wanted to make a motion.
All right,
we can-
okay.
We can make it. We can vote no if we want.
Okay.
Further comments?
No, I thought that was the recommendation from the department chair.
Right, and I said that with this being 700 and the other one being like $40 difference, I thought we would just leave it alone, considering the sheer magnitude of the other numbers we're talking
Sorry.
about, but that's fine. All those in favor of a new fuel budget of $9,300 signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Nay? Did you get that, Joanna? Thank you.
She's on it.
Sorry about that, Bob.
Not a problem.
Were we doing anything with line item 55235?
We were gonna just leave it as it is, based on the.
Okay,
information.
so originally 41,950, now after discussion, we're not changing it.
Yeah,
Correct.
based on the fact
After
that
discussion,
they're doing well.
basically Matt did exactly what we had hoped he would do, is encumber the money. So that will be relatively fully spent this year. And then we'll be able to do the other well next year for the same, presumably the same budget. So, new benefits, new fire alarm, new meter, and new fuel number. So the new water distribution number, Doreen?
Is $845,402, and again, that's 845,402.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The vote, thank you. Treatment.
Okay, down to 55368. we had discussed changing that to 30,000 from the proposed 50,000.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? $30,000 for that line.
Do you need to jump back up to the,
Oh, benefits, Doreen, sorry.
The new benefits total for water treatment is $163,554.
554. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so,
down to 55270, agreed upon decrease of $5,000 to $5,000 budget.
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor of a revised software contracted services budget of $5,000 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Fire alarm communication underwater treatment would be reduced to $1.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we had agreed to
Leave that alone,
leave chemicals at the 105.
right?
Any further conversation on that? Is that an agreeable decision? Such as it is? A new water treatment total, Doreen.
Do we want to change fuel, or are we keeping that?
It would be up to, if somebody wants to slice a solid $60 off the budget?
You know what, I would.
It's
It's $140. I'll move that we change the fuel budget by recommendation of the department to $1,860.
Second.
By the book. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Jen. Now, a new water treatment total, Doreen.
The new water treatment total is $813,283. Again, that's 813,283.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I
Yes.
humor the board by asking for the percentage at this point on that?
Well, why don't we vote on debt service?
That'll bring it to total.
Well,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
No, I mean,
yeah,
that would- that would-
if you want-
Just
Go
curious
for it.
how much of a, what that water treatment.
So with the four major divisions, I don't even know what they were at.
Yeah, I have 9.4% just for the water treatment.
That's what I was looking for. Thank
Oh,
you.
just that one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought you meant all four of them. Okay.
So just as one thing we didn't talk about was debt service, I alluded to it in our summary at the beginning but you have the groundwater treatment plants, principal and interest, first year payments. I'm sorry, right?
TTHMs.
Yeah, never
TTHM
mind. I'm
equipment.
gonna save that. Wrong budget.
That was a $1.2 million project.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking of something else, sorry.
Yeah, Salem Street and the TTHM debt is incorporated into the budget
Right.
for 20.
I was thinking about the new sewer payments that are coming online and that those were,
Yes, that's
Yeah.
going to be when we get to sewer,
Yeah.
we'll have a,
it's only 8:00, so it doesn't bode well for me.
It's quarter past
we're
eight.
starting to get some numbers for you to chew on that.
Right. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
So I'll accept a motion to approve the debt service number, $1,164,650.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So capital outlay 57015. We discussed dropping that down to $100,000 and level funding it.
So moved.
Second.
Did we also?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Sorry, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry.
All those in favor of a revised water system capital budget of $100,000 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And want to do vehicles?
I have a question.
Sure.
You have an amount, but does everyone have that sub-schedule that lists all the vehicles on it?
Yes.
Because could you be specific as to what vehicles you're not recommending?
Do I have to?
It would help,
Yeah.
narrow it down.
We sort of approached it as we wanted one vehicle replaced and whatever the department felt was the most necessary to put in there. So I don't know that I have an actual vehicle that I'd want, but we can probably drum one up.
Well, I just want to allude to.
Or as a department.
I would just,
There was-
why don't we do this? You had averaged it at 42. It looks like two of the vehicles are around 48 that add the four-wheel drive truck, because they need at least
Yes.
one plow truck. And there was the add truck 14A to 14, and then there's the replace 16 after they do some work. So I would maybe suggest, I was sort of mulling this over when I saw it today, is make it 48 to just align with their numbers.
Yeah.
And then they can pick whichever one they want to do. Does that make sense? Is everybody, if you look at page 66 and 82 of the CIP
There's
vehicle.
Four trucks, four vehicles. I think.
Right, and we're suggesting that they pick one.
There's in water and sewer, there's 156,765 in total requests for both funds, so we
Right.
split the cost, obviously, between
Right.
the two
Right.
funds. So whatever you reduce it to in water, if you have the same amount in sewer, then it becomes.
That's
Sorry.
where that wasn't done correctly. They shouldn't be split 50/50.
Well, they're not all, actually,
This-
let me finish that up by saying they're not all, I don't think they're 50/50.
No.
Right?
Okay,
So for instance, we would be recommending, if we could only get one vehicle for water, it should be truck 14, which would be $48,059.
And that's
Same
just
amount,
water.
Just to water.
Right.
got it.
Yeah, I would,
Yeah.
the same thing's gonna get proposed in the sewer. There'll be some number at that level.
So Jennifer, that truck does not belong in the sewer?
No. it's-
So is everybody clear on what we're trying to do here?
Page 66.
Page 66
Where it is.
of the CIP book. So there are four,
48,
three of the vehicles that they were looking for were combined water and sewer. And then this one happens to be just water, so when we get to sewer, we'll have to deal with
48 or
that.
60 then, all right.
They're actually, the 14 is just water, the
Right.
other three are just sewer.
Oh, they are?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I read those wrong then.
Well, we can cut the budget even more.
Well, then you got your one, then you got your one.
Then you don't need.
Well, one of them was a 50, one was a 50/50, the water distribution.
Oh, one's a
Yeah.
50/50,
oh,
sorry.
which one was that?
Number,
That was
11.
11,
Yeah, 11 is split.
thank you.
page 78,
Okay.
the hybrid, the truck conversion.
Right.
So what is it?
You want to move?
So we're gonna recommend $48,000 for line 57009 to replace truck 14.
So moved.
Second.
Well, I think Corey moved it, and we'll say Nancy seconds it.
Okay.
Question,
Question, Tom?
so we're just doing the round number rather than the specific number on the CIP?
I think he's-
I know, it's only 59
Close
bucks,
enough.
I'm just,
That's fine. I mean,
I'm just,
$60.
I'm just.
Was-
sometimes
were
I
those
see
numbers-
round numbers,
did they
kind of
come
think
from
it's a
anywhere?
random
Well,
thing.
they're estimates from the department, so.
Well, again, they go to the bid list,
I understand, I'm just, so when I see round numbers, then other people would question that. That's all, just an observation.
That's a good point.
Well, there's other trucks have round numbers. 12.5 and 12.5, that's a good round number.
Okay, I haven't looked that far ahead yet, I'm just looking on this one line item.
That's not a truck. That's just replacing the body on a
No,
truck.
replace, there's
In
replace-
order to have it line up,
Yep,
Anyways,
so there's a reference
Yeah,
point.
that's-
So would you
yeah,
amend your, so we'll amend the, Corey will amend his motion to $48,059.
Thank you.
Nancy, would you agree to that?
so moving line 57,009 to $48,059.
so you're gonna cause my water rate to go up an additional,
Three-
Sorry, Doc.
3 cents. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we did water system capital, so what would be the new capital outlay number, Doreen?
The new capital outlay number would be 170,652.
I'm sorry, could you?
Move,
Oh, sure. To repeat again, capital outlay is 170,652.
thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye on capital outlay.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And a new water fund total, Doreen.
Okay, the new water fund total is $3,567,264. And again, that is 3567264.
So moved.
Second.
And for discussion, what would that percentage end up being?
8.7%. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job.
All those in favor of a water fund budget of $3,567,264 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And I would just, I mean, I hate to say good job because I know that there really are all valuable projects and we'll get to them someday. But I think it's a good job to, just deferring some of the expenses we're going to have to another day, another rainy day.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And can I just interject that, yeah, when I say good job, I also mean it in the other way, which is that
Yeah,
I just want to state the obvious, but I like stating obvious things. The water quality is probably the most important thing we do in this town, I think, beyond almost anything else we talk about. And I think this town has done a great job, and your department has done a really great job. And as a consumer, I can tell the difference. And I ignore the quarterly statements that have been coming. I think the water tastes great, it looks great. I think all the expenses are necessary and well worth it.
Thank you.
Hey, you guys do a great job. You have to leave.
Yeah.
Is everybody else in for the duration of sewer? Because we're right on the cusp of a quorum if Anna leaves.
I'm fading, so
Well,
it's 8:45.
We got probably another hour plus. So.
Well, we've already gone almost.
Okay, so I would, we're gonna take a 6.5 minute break, come back at 8:30, stretch our legs and, get some water and all of that, and, we'll come back at 8:30. Thank you, and thank you, Anna, for hanging in. Welcome back. After a brief break, we're ready to tackle the sewer portion of the budget.
We want to consider just, maybe it'll expedite if we were to, approve each department as we went down through and collect them as we go.
Sure, and we can do that. I mean, I thought what I wanted to see was how things sort of shook out,
Well, that's fair
but
too.
I think it wasn't that big a deal, so yeah, we'll do it each division.
Okay.
Do you want to read the
Yeah,
narrative again? Okay.
So as presented, the preliminary 2020 budget for the sewer fund is an increase of 48.6% over 2019. Several factors are contributing to the increase, including wages, scheduled increases per union contracts, promotions, the full year impact of a fifth plant operator, software implementation and training, impact fee analysis, upgrades to the alarm communication system. On top of these increases, the sewer budget is heavily impacted by the projected cost of operating the new treatment plant for the first full year. Chemicals, electricity, and solids handling are significantly higher as a result and are represented as the new cost of doing business, quote unquote, for the sewer treatment plant. And those are my quote unquotes. The town is also beginning to repay the sewer plant bond in 2020, which adds about $310,000 of principal and interest payments to debt service. The budget recommendation, or the subcommittee's recommendations and discussion of the sewer fund budget is detailed below, and we'll go through it now.
At this point, there are a few things that are duplicative from the water fund. If we'll sort of jump to those, if there are no
Yeah, right.
specific recommendations in the subcommittee report. If someone has a question, we have no problem going back up. So shout it out.
Yeah, that's a
We'll,
good point.
try to get us out of here by 10 if we can.
So, starting in administration, again, 51110, we talked about wages increase due to union contracts, the transition of one technician to an engineer assistant. Down to consulting services, 55055, we're recommending reducing that by $10,000. As we talked about, doing the impact fees in-house.
I'll entertain a motion for that.
55055 to 10,000?
12,000.
To 12,000. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, do you
Yes.
want to move up to benefits and do that now too? or-
sure.
The new benefits total for sewer administration is $97,048, and again, that's 97048.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Anything else on the admin? So the new admin number, Doreen?
The new administration total for sewer is $418,944. Again, that's 418944.
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Billing?
Billing, nothing noted that isn't similar to the water budget, so that being consulting services, the line will be spent for 2019, and the $3,000 increase is for the implementation of the billing and collection software. And then we have 55091, also an increase for education and training around the Munis software.
Questions, comments? New benefits number, Doreen?
The new benefits number for sewer billing is $44,364. Again, 44364.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Any other questions on the billing
Sorry.
budget?
I think so.
New sewer billing total, Doreen?
Is $176,183. Again, that's 176,183.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Collection?
We talked about wages already. Couple other lines that have low year-to-date spending, but we've been told will be spent, 55153, I&I abatement, and 55369, pipe relining. Vehicle maintenance, the next line.
Excuse me for just 1 second. You know, this, I really, the risk of dragging things out, these are items that have been, were put in a few years ago as a way to put off spending tens of millions of dollars on a very comprehensive program. And the department's done an amazing job over the years of picking projects where, to limit the infiltration of water to our sewer system. So I think there's some specific projects associated with these. If you could just spend, you know, a minute and articulate them.
What line item are we at?
The II abatement and the pipe relining, you know, it's a total of $60,000. Our records show nothing to date, but there are some specific projects that they're working on, so.
Mid-page 3,
55153.
55153.
About halfway
On the main-
down the
on the-
collection,
sorry.
on
Yeah.
page 3.
Okay.
If,
So, on the pipe relining, we have done some pipe relining this year on the water, in the Water Street,
Yeah, the balance
Area.
of last year,
yep. And on the I&I abatement.
We're currently in discussions with a company right now. We've put some calls in. We've identified 3 or 4 manholes that we're looking to reline and recoat and rehabilitate. Along with those manholes, there'll be sections of pipe going in and out of these manholes that we'll be able to reline. And I have our utility foreman kind of working on this currently. And this is another company that's busy as heck and everyone wants them. So we're currently trying to coordinate some time with this company.
So this will be encumbered?
Nope.
no, they're gonna be doing it this fall.
We'll make sure it gets done or, you know, have an agreement in place that will allow us to.
You get 7 weeks. They get 7 weeks, right?
Well, at worst case is they have to end up encumbering it, but as of now, he's hoping to get it done.
Correct.
Okay, proceed.
Great.
55319, vehicle maintenance has a $3,000 increase. Just more vehicles aging, experiencing harder use, experiencing more maintenance expense. New line, CSO monitoring. So this one, as we understand, we kind of flew under the radar for a number of years or some number of years and weren't charged a maintenance fee for monitoring. And they've now caught up with us, and this is what we can expect to spend going forward.
Correct. Yeah.
This amount.
Yes.
Yep. And I will let Jen and Matt talk a little bit more to that.
Thank you.
So, yes, this is flow monitoring that is conducted in our two CSO structures by Flow Assessment Services. This was their equipment. They do the maintenance of that equipment, and we've had that for 4 years, I believe. And somehow we hadn't been billed for it. We weren't even aware of that issue. It's one of the things that can happen, unfortunately. New owners came on board. They went back and did some auditing of their books, and they realized that we hadn't been paying for that annual maintenance of the equipment. It's very important to our reporting to the state when we do have a combined sewer overflow occurrence. We have to document very detailed the amount of flow, how much water, stormwater and sewer combined went over to Clemson Pond, and we have to provide them with this type of information, so.
Where is that device?
It's physically
Please.
located in the overflow structure itself, so.
Which
It's very,
Which is where, the central pumping station?
no, it's
End of
kind of.
Spring Street.
It's, yeah, in Water Street, Spring Street intersection,
Two.
Oh,
And then there's one other one on the other side of the two
kind of
seventy-nine
in
Water
front of
Street.
the bakery area.
so like meters or that record the,
There are meters and, I don't wanna call it telemetry equipment, but it's instantaneous reads that we can get, that the company, we can access on a shared drive. We can see that instantaneous flow information, and it's difficult service. I mean, think about it, it's basically in a sewer manhole.
yeah, right.
And it's high-tech equipment.
So when we get an extreme weather event, a major flood, and we have a CSO, and we have to wind up reporting to EPA that we had a combined sewer overflow of 525,000 gallons. That number comes from this equipment?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's never 525,
Well-
it'll be 533,000, and, I mean, it's very
Again, I
accurate.
apologize to Ton, I rounded off the number.
Of course, we're under an order to eliminate CSOs
Yep.
altogether, so.
Yeah, right, so it should be 0.
So this is a 4-year cumulative charge.
No.
They're not back charging
They're
us.
not back charged.
No,
It'll be
they're
this
not.
every year.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
So we saved 40 grand, but we have added.
But we're gonna be paying it going forward.
Yes.
Wow.
Huh.
Thank you.
Yes, yep.
I'd like to bring something to the BRC's attention. I was just noticing, we just got some updated numbers on the debt service for next year, and there are a lot more than what you have in your work papers
For sewer.
for sewer.
Right.
So are you aware of it?
We are aware of
Okay,
that.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, when we get to that
it wasn't
point.
a surprise.
No,
Okay.
we are aware of it.
That's when the real.
Thanks for the warning, though.
We are aware of it, and we will discuss it, hopefully within a few minutes.
Okay, very
Thank
good,
you.
thank you.
Next line down would be the fire alarm communication, which we will move to $1.
I will second that.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And just while we're on that page 3, the new benefits total for collection, Doreen?
Yes, the new benefits total is $135,011.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And you did say 135,011?
It's matches its
Yeah.
counterpart in the water department.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Question on line item 55,319, vehicle maintenance. Obviously, there's a $3,000 increase, which seems to track with the fact that we're over budget this year on that line item. Given that we are, looking forward to the vehicles budget later, we're gonna be not replacing all 3 that are requested. Should we consider increasing that? I don't know what I'm never really for increasing budgets, but it seems prudent that this one might get overspent yet again.
Or they could tighten their belt and.
They could. think one of those vehicles was 15 years old that I saw in the CIP book, so I don't know what's down the line for those guys, but.
Yeah, that one was the, I think, truck 13, or sedan 13. Well, why don't we leave it as is?
I'm
And then when
inclined
we
to do
get to
that
the
as well.
vehicle discussion, if we want to circle back after some reflection, depending on what, because the committee obviously hasn't voted on the vehicle part of it, so why don't we see how that shakes out and would allow the department to circle back to this if they felt
It is an
strongly.
increase of 3,000, yes?
Right.
Reading the line, right?
Well, again, with the new treatment plant, there's a lot more running around doing stuff, and we've upgraded the main pumps, we've just upgraded a lot of things, and so there's an interest in having some face time with all of this equipment, making sure everything clicks along as it's supposed to.
Yep.
So there will be harder use on the vehicles, there's no question about it.
So have we thought, because we have a campus there, right, of all the buildings,
Yes.
and we've got to get from building to building to building. Have we thought of something other than a vehicle to get us around? Like maybe
A
some-
gator?
Some of the vehicles, a gator, or things that the academy uses?
I already have one. But I still need more because we have a lot of snow to remove down there. It's not part of the highway snow fighting thing, so there's a lot more snow to clear on that campus you speak of.
So you guys have to do your own snow.
Correct. And all the 22 stations. We've taken that on now
Wow.
too.
Wow.
Yep. Yep. So that the highway can fight streets, sidewalks, and then we move on to stations and hydrants.
But you already have a utility vehicle to run around?
Sure do.
You take it duck hunting too?
No.
No?
Doesn't leave
Does
campus.
not go off that site.
Campus, right? Do we,
It is a campus. We've been over
do
there.
we have a new fuel number, or is,
Yeah, you're welcome.
is that this
Yes.
sort of the same order of
It's
magnitude?
Sort of the same, and actually, this one, we probably, it's also 9,300.
This is my cue. Mr. Chair, I would like to move that we change line 55128 to $9,300.
Second.
Thank you.
That's a swan with a Z, right? Okay. All those in favor of revising the fuel budget to $9,300 in collection, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed. So a new collection, or any other questions or comments on the collection budget? Any other comments by you, Corey?
The new sewer collection total is $716,779. Again, that's 716,779.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Treatment.
Okay. We covered full-time wages. Skipping down to 55022, building maintenance. The increase is to account for the new sewer plant buildings. They're online now. 55154 has an increase in industrial pre-treat to account for more industry facilities in town. Things such as silver nitrate and mercury with our dentists we talked about. Maybe you can elaborate a little more on that line.
So, yes, on the industrial pretreatment, I'm sorry, I'm having a moment. There's an amalgam separator that is used in dentistry that does remove, or is supposed to remove any mercury that is used in dental practice. And also, I believe it's silver.
Silver nitrate. I
Yeah,
believe.
and so we have to make sure that those separation units are operating properly, that material is not getting to the wastewater treatment facility.
Plus, we have some added industry coming into town.
Two new breweries,
Yeah.
which obviously have a lot
May I,
of issues.
Mr. Chair? So I remember when I served on the subcommittee, we discussed that a little bit, but refresh my memory. Are some of these, a couple of questions about that, just for the public, if they're interested in watching. Are those costs passed on to those,
To the users.
those businesses, those
Yes.
users?
We do charge our larger industrial clients, there is a fee associated with their permit. I can't speak to the dental offices, I don't know if those have all been recuperated.
No.
I don't think that they have, but we have maybe 5 large industrial type permits that we do recuperate costs on those.
And it sounds like this is pretty specific to dental practices as well. So are you have to do this for each one of those practices individually? Or is this done in one central location? I guess I'm not following that.
It's done at each practice, yep, yep.
So
Really?
We have a subcontract, we have an engineering firm that assists us with this, so it's just more time for them to come in and assist. So each dentist will have an upgraded permit.
I would venture to say that will be looked at with the impact fees.
I would say it'd be an excellent,
Yes.
topic.
Yeah, but it's a yearly cost, not just a one-time cost, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I have a note, I think our industrial pre-treat year-to-date even exceeded the 19 budget as of when we were speaking by about
Right.
$1,000. So.
Yep.
Mobile communication 55190 is up by $2,000, bringing 2 new internet connections into the sewer plant. So there again, we're just seeing, inherent costs associated with running this plant are gonna drive the operating budget up. Line alarm communication, we will reduce that to $1 per
So
our
moved.
discussions. Which one?
It's the
Second.
Yeah.
I mean, you moved it, I'll second, I'm sorry.
No, that's
Getting
a problem.
late.
I have you moving it. So all in favor of adjusting the new fire alarm communications line to $1 as a placeholder, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
Line 55260, SCADA software and hardware, we had an agreed upon reduction of $2,000 down to $5,000.
I will move that number.
Second.
Any further questions or clarification on that? All those in favor of a revised budget of 55260 of $5,000, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay. So then we get down to 55034, chemicals, and this kind of starts some reality check on our operating our plants. So chemicals are up $45,000. And that is the cost of doing business with a $50 million sewer plants. Similarly, solids handling is up $236,000. Natural gas, $5,500. Electricity, $106,000.
Did we, is this note correct that the Wright Pierce revised this in 2019, or are these numbers out of the facilities plan?
They're from the 2018 projections, as the construction was happening.
Okay,
So they've been low. Just warn you, they've been low.
okay.
So, but I thought we actually, in our meeting, we looked to reduce the chemical line
Chemicals.
by 20,000 to $100,000.
That's what I had in
I have a
mind,
note
too.
here that we reduced to 100,000.
Corey and I must have been on a donut high at that point in our meeting. I don't have those notes, so
Yeah.
your honesty is to be commended.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
we were looking
both-
for $100,000 would be the final request.
No. I just had a note that we'd learned from this year's operation what it will really be when we were asking this question about how, where the
Yep.
projection came from, but
Yep.
Well, one of
Evidently,
the-
we
So
learned the
be
wrong
it.
lesson.
Well, one of the other things that we still haven't been able to remove is the chlorine and dechlorination piece. We're still, the contractor is just completing the new UV ultraviolet disinfection. So we had full year cost for that this year, but we won't have that next year, so.
So again, instead of a $125,000 budget, you're looking at a $100,000 budget.
Correct.
Okay, I'll move that number.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So, yeah, we're flying blind, but Wright Pierce is pretty relatively comfortable with these numbers, other than them maybe getting QC'd in the field.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, so treatment, do we need a new benefits number? I'm sorry,
Yeah, oh, sorry, benefits, yeah, thank you.
Doreen?
The new benefits total for sewer treatment is $193,048. And again, that's 193,048.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we have that. New fire alarm number. New SCADA number. New chemicals number. Anything else? Dan?
Has the fuel number moved a whole lot?
You're trading off over me.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know, is your gator a battery operated?
$300,
How much?
$300.
So 4,200?
Yeah.
The silly corner over here is all over this, so $4,200? Do you guys
be
have a preference on who moves it and who seconds it?
I will make the motion on this one.
And I will second it.
There we go.
I'm sorry. Break decorum here for a minute. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So a new sewer treatment number, Doreen, please.
That number is $1,415,245. And again, that's 1415245.
So moved.
Second.
And with the, I mean, it's not a lot, but is there a new percentage on that?
Yes.
I have 53.1%.
I didn't hear you.
53.1?
Thank you.
All those in favor of it?
Oh.
I'm sorry, Don?
Oh, you moved that sewer total?
Moved and seconded, Nancy and
Sewer
Dan,
treatment total.
for $1,415,245. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
for context purposes, this is a result of our new $53 million state-of-the-art storage treatment plant. And I think we should all be very proud of it. I'm very proud of it. I mean, it's our contribution to cleaning up the river and the bay.
Great, man.
But I think it's important to note, and that's why the context, is that it now cost the ratepayers 3 times as much to treat wastewater than it did a few years ago.
Yes.
It's amazing that this new treatment is that much more expensive. You know, it's than the old system. I mean.
Well, Jen has taught me over the years that part of the problem with that is our system was not just outdated, it was ancient. I mean, it was developed in the 60s, I think.
64.
So it was so far past upgrading that's why it costs so much.
Bob, I understand
Costs so
that.
much.
Bob, I pushed for a new wastewater
I know you
plant. I was an advocate, okay, still an advocate. But I just think it's important for people to understand the context that now it's gonna cost 3 times as much to treat it. Which begs me, we have a new treatment plant in Newmarket, we have a new treatment plant coming online in Portsmouth. Is their cost for treatment relatively the same as ours? Do we know that? Do we
I think
do we
there's-
comparison? Do we do comparisons?
There's more of a differential here, because again, we only had aerated lagoons, where we just allowed the sludge to accumulate and accumulate. We haven't been dealing with really the solids handling aspects, and the other 2 facilities were. That's a big piece of it. I'm sure their energy costs have gone up similar to ours, but I think the solids are, we're not in the same ballpark.
And we
Yeah.
still need to do
It's
something
gonna end
with
up-
solids
yeah.
as for capital improvements.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, the sewer budget was in the high 1.9, 1.7 million as recently as 5 or 6 years ago.
I'm just talking the
No.
treatment. The
Yeah.
treatment was in
Oh,
the
just the treatment,
was in
yeah.
the $400,000 to $500,000
Right,
range back in the day,
15, yeah.
back in the old plant day.
So Doreen, you have some pleasant news for us on debt service?
Well, it's not my fault.
Well, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, Russ will kindly walk you
Sure.
through that.
Okay,
So, if everybody hopefully got this handout called NHDES Clean Water State Revolving Fund Estimated Loan Repayment Schedule, so I'm gonna work from that. So if you look at that sheet, and you compare it to what's in the budget, so, there's a couple of things happening. One is that we are in the final throes of, working out our repayment schedule, and you can see that the first payment there, they're saying is going to be due 12/1/19. That is something we've actually agreed that we would bring to the select board, because in order to take advantage of a 20% reimbursement of that initial small payment, it needs to be paid 12/1/19. So as we went through the state aid grant process this past spring, and we got the support of our state senators and legislators, and now they are in their fiscal year 2020, because their fiscal year starts July. And so this is actually the first year of the available state aid grant of the biennium. So we want to make sure that we're able to take advantage of that. So we will bring the select board the request Tuesday night for to take the 301,030.26 amount to be offset by 60,000 out of the sewer reserves for that initial cut, so we can get our hands on that 60,000 payment. Now, going forward from there, you will see that, so now we're going to go to the state's FY '21 and our FY '20, which is the second year of the, on the state level, it's the second year of the biennium. That's where the payments become much larger. You can see that's payment number 2, and that would be due on 12/1/20. And so, just looking at that payment, that is the first large payment for the facility. I will say that if you look down the sheet where it says principal forgiven, you can see that column. That represents the 5% total forgiveness off the principal amount due. So what I will do is add that 2.7 million down at the bottom to the 50.8, next to it, and you get 53,580,000. That is the budget number that we've been working with so far. So basically, what you see is the principal payments on the debt service basically back out that 2.7 million. So we only pay 50,871,000. So hopefully everybody can follow that. On the second page where it shows the state aid grant amounts, the one that's listed under fiscal year 2021, again, that is the state's fiscal year 2021, so the money we would get would be 12/1/2020 and would have to be part of our 2020 budget, is 861,433. So what we are recommending is that we amend the debt budget to include the 2020 amount principal payment of 2,666,533. I would recommend we just round it up. And the interest payment that includes an administrative fee of $1,640,631. And so that will be the expense side of the debt service, and then on the revenue side, we will account for the 861,000 that we expect to see in the state aid grant.
So instead of the current numbers that are shown in our budget of approximately $314,000, now we're looking at 4.3 million.
Correct.
Wow.
And when you,
But what you get on the other side.
and when you look,
Right.
and when
Let's-
you
yeah,
look
let's-
at, and when you look at these projections, we did some projections based upon, that are in the other packet, based on usage, water use, and projected the sewer funds revenues for the year, along with the state aid grant amounts.
What page are you on, Russ? now?
I'm on page,
The second page.
Second page, yeah.
right, and I think the state aid grant amount, well, we'll double check that, but the debt payment offset with the SAG, 861,433. So I think what Laura did is she took credit for the state aid grant amount and reduced the budget by the state aid grant to 7.4 million. I think if we baked it back in, it would be 8.2, and we showed it on both. The budget would be 8.2 million, and the offset would be 860,000. So we'll double check that. If the amount ends up having to be gross budgeted, it will be, I think, 8.2 million. When we add this in and we get down to the bottom line of the sewer budget, you'll be talking north of $8 million, I think.
Wait,
I'm lost.
yeah, how did it go from 4.3 to 8?
No, I'm talking about in this sheet here, which is our projected revenues for the
Oh,
sewer
oh,
fund
oh.
for FY '20 based
Right,
upon the
right.
new rates.
Oh, I'm looking at, yeah. So when she put in there total other, what is the other?
The other is just, I would call it like ancillary revenue, like industrial pretreatment fees and,
Okay.
more minor things.
She's on the bottom right here.
So now, we raised the rates a few years ago to try to accumulate a little bit of a savings account, which is $3.4 million or so. I mean, should we take some of that out to offset this? Because this is pretty spectacular.
Right, well, once you do the math on it, you'll see that the revenue surplus deficit goes to 1.2 million.
Right.
So we're no longer turning a surplus. So for
Right.
at least that first payment, we are going to be tapping into, even the new rates won't cover one for one.
Right. Because we're paying it earlier than we
Right, so
anticipated.
we'll end up hitting our fund balance in the sewer fund for some of this. That's why I say we will likely have to make another rate adjustment. Right now, if you look at the fund balance projection at the end of September, it's 3.4 million is available.
Right.
So at the end of this year, that number will increase by the last 2 months or 3 months of collections. So it'll be bumping up a little bit more than that.
But then we're losing 300,000 in December.
That's correct. You're correct. Actually, 240 because it's the net of the 60,000.
Oh, right.
Right, we'll get 60,000 back on the state aid grant, so it'll be a 240 hit to the current reserve, the current fund balance.
Can I get a 30,000-foot view here? I'm a little, I'm very lost. We just got this tonight, these.
Right.
Schedule. So the first schedule is the estimated loan repayment schedule. This is based on the 20-year bond we took out for the $50 million plan.
It's a state revolving fund loan, but yeah, through DES.
Through DES.
Little
So that's our
different than a
payment
bond.
schedule for the 50 million something. The second page, I explained the state aid grant.
Right,
Does
so.
that mean every year we're going to get a state aid grant in total of what those totals are?
So this was the major discussion at the select board level this past spring, when we were very active in working with our state legislators through Representative Gilman and State Senator Morgan to pursue restoration of the state aid grant program. And that was a very, we were very actively involved in that. And as a result of that process and the budget actually containing the state aid grant money, we are in the queue to receive what you see on the second page. Now, obviously, the budget is it's a biennial budget, so presumably this money stays, and as long as the program stays intact, this is what we would be scheduled to receive. So it's a big help.
So over the life of the project, we could look to potentially, if the budget, if it stayed in the budget, see $10 million in grant
I think
towards
it's
principal.
towards principal and then 12.3 overall.
Overall.
Right.
Yeah.
Toward
Which
our
is a-
50-something million dollar
Correct.
debt.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to
If
ascertain.
this remains in every biennium.
Right, and we have to make sure that we
Right,
are
yeah,
very
every 2
much
years.
advocating
Big
that
deal.
this program not get
Yeah.
suspended or fall into some other,
Yeah,
So,
Problem.
and the mechanics of it
Yeah.
require that we make some accelerated payment in this year.
correct, to
Some
guarantee
timing
us.
issues on,
Because if we pushed it off, that first large-scale payment back to us of the 20% could get pushed out another year.
Right.
And that puts it into a budget, then it puts it into a more of a,
and are we getting, if we take care of it eventually this year, are we getting two instead of potentially just one if it didn't get renewed?
if it didn't get renewed, right. It really
Yeah, makes sense.
makes it more significant.
So the large payment upfront helps both ways, both in terms of, obviously, the state rebate, if you want to call it that, or aid,
State aid.
as well as paying down, of course, on the bond itself. Just
Right.
state, again, my specialty, stating the obvious.
And then you see what happens to the payment in year 3. It actually drops quite a bit, because because of the way the interest rate is being applied in the administration fee. So even though it's still a very large payment, it's not as large as that first year. So you're maximizing that amount that you're getting back, the 20%.
well, they drop every year after that. So we take a very large hit, the ratepayers take a very large hit for 2020, right?
Correct.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, there'll be a balance of a
project is
hit
a
and
on
then
the rates.
basically wiping out our reserves.
Wipe out the reserves.
Even below the 500,000, maybe.
No, we'll end up with we have what, 3,
Since we just changed the sewer rates, we really, we have 3.4 through September 30. And obviously with the new bills and the new rates for the last 3 installments, if you will, the last 3 monthly bills of this fiscal year for us, we're going to see a bump in revenue from
Right.
that. So that will bump that up,
And then we'll have all next year
by an order of
to add to
magnitude.
it. Before
Right.
December of next year.
And once we make this commitment here, and we get in the queue for the 20%, then we're then in a position at that point to really look again at our sewer fund projections and decide, one of the things that we did talk about with the select board when the rates were modified back in July was the fact that, you know, this may be one of two. There may be another sewer rate adjustment coming based upon what the final
Right.
numbers look like. And we can't say what that would be right now, but at least putting this into place now gives us some certainty as far as projecting out subsequent years after that, which we will begin working on in earnest once we get this queued up. Even before then, I mean, we will be into that mode very shortly.
Well, it certainly confirms the excellent planning in terms of building up the reserve. So, hats
Yes,
off to all
it's-
those who made those tough decisions.
Well, we didn't expect to wipe it out in the first year, though.
Okay. Thank goodness we got it.
But at least we
Yeah,
did do
well.
some planning. So do we have a rough idea of what the split, you know, just so I can update on the 2019 actual under debt service? So if my math's correct, it's the 301,030 minus the 60, roughly 60,000. So it's a delta of about $240,000 that we'll be paying out P and I
Right.
in another few weeks. Do we have a split on the principal versus the interest, just so I can update?
On that particular payment?
Yes,
It's on the chart. It would be equivalent to the first reference number 1, due date 12/1/19, principal is
Oh, there we go.
206,881.35.
sorry. No, but that's for the
Interest.
total 301, and then we have a 60,000
Right.
forgiveness.
That's correct, 60,000, and that's on the second page, so you see.
Right, so I'm asking you if anybody's done the math to see what the actual numbers will be to add up to 240.
The net.
The net.
The net principal, the net interest.
See, the two,
No, I know what you're saying. You'd have to to get to that number, you just take the principal of 206,881 and subtract the 41,367 from that on the page 2.
oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
And then on
I was
interest,
just
you take
hoping,
94,148.91,
that-
subtract 18,830, and that gives you your principal and interest.
So around 160 and 60, 170. Well, like you said, Don, we weren't totally planning on wiping it out in the
Right.
first couple of years, but. So,
I'm just calling home, telling them not to flush the toilet anymore.
exactly, yeah, go for it.
Well,
So-
and I believe when we had the first initial rates discussion, there was some hesitation to adjust the sewer rate.
Oh, there was a
couple
lot of
years back,
hesitation.
If I recall correctly,
Yes.
so, actually making that happen at that time has helped considerably in hindsight.
Yeah, but hindsight only works one way. 2 years ago,
So.
hindsight didn't quite work, so.
That was November
The
of
206,
2017.
387
Right.
will actually be, so 2.6, do you have the exact numbers, or should I do the subtraction?
I'm sorry, I was doing something else. trying to figure
Exact numbers for.
So it's
for what, Bob?
2.666 million minus 533,000 off the top of our head. I'm just trying to fill in what the new budget numbers would be.
Oh, 2133.
So 2.133 million.
Mhm.
Thank you. And then the interest would be, instead of 107,614,
It would be,
be 1.6 minus 328,
1640, 630.
So it's at 1.2.
minus 328 and 26. 1.312,504. 59, so 505, 1312, 505. Now, I will say, remember, keep in mind that one of the things I've mentioned is that we're not clear, I don't think at this point yet, how the 20% works. Are they gonna send us a check, or are they gonna withhold it as a credit against this debt payment? We're gonna have to work with the state to figure that out, because that does make a difference of whether we budget this gross amount
Right.
and show a revenue to offset it,
And then,
or we do what the chair just did, which is took credit for it on the expense side.
so how do we move forward with that then?
Well,
We
we'll just
need
have to get the answer to that question. I
Before-
mean, that's,
Well, why don't, for discussion purposes,
I'd
let's,
recommend we gross budget, because
yeah,
my
let's
understanding of
move,
state aid
let's
grant
move
is
a
that the
debt
state
service
sends you
total
a
based
check.
on the numbers we have in front of us.
gross.
And then the grow, and then the select, then they'll be adjusted, so. The new debt service total,
So you're not gonna put in a number for that wastewater treatment plant?
yeah, we just did.
Oh, okay.
Well, wasn't that net, the 2.13 that,
Yeah, I'll
For
give you the
principal.
gross number.
Can you give me that number one more time?
Okay, so did you want just the total debt service?
No, he wants the debt for
Principal
the.
and
Well, I mean, we
wastewater
have
plant.
it's,
the numbers, whether it's a gross or a net, will be something that, the finance department and the town manager work out. So we, don't
Right.
so give us the debt service number for 2020
I'm afraid.
as you currently,
Gross number.
Okay,
assess it.
all right.
this
It's-
is total.
Yes, correct, total debt service. $4,848,995. And again, that's 4,848,995.
So moved.
Don't be so quick, Nancy.
I can't help it, if that's what we're doing.
4848,
4,848,995,
so it's a $4 million increase.
Mhm.
yes.
Holy.
I will second that number.
As they say, think of the money we'll save.
Think of the money we saved.
Julie, you'd better hang around for a long time, because
That $300.
in 2038, I want to see all of that 12 million, and in your good work.
You have to talk to the finance committee, because they're the ones that cut down the list of projects that were eligible.
Oof.
And then the Senate finance committee took that the larger numbers, so we got cut off right before.
Wow.
This is basically because we're making a double payment
Yes.
up front. So next year, we can not expect to see a $4,848,000, $4,848,000.
There won't be the increase, but it'll be about that same level. Oh, and actually, it'll be less.
We're gonna drop from 4.3
It'll be
to
less.
3.6. Correct. But whatever other debt service is there, so it's gonna be,
Whatever
Yeah, we
else
won't have
comes in.
the increase, but it'll be that number.
And then the other one was,
It'll be level funded or somewhere.
It'll still be that
That's
number?
our life for the next 20 years, is $5 million in debt service.
and that's the interest. Yeah.
Well, not that anyone really wants to put their name on this vote, but have to ask. All those in favor of all those accepting a new debt service total of $4,848,995 that would include a prepayment in order to save, in the long haul, approximately 20% on our debt, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, then.
That wasn't so hard.
I'm not sure it's even worth
It'll be
continuing.
balanced.
Yeah, people are gonna take a look at the budget and think there was a typo. Okay, capital outlay, Corey. Seems so insignificant now.
57017, capital outlay, WWTP. It's discussed with the department, just doing one project, replacing some aerators. So we're dropping that to $30,000 line item.
So the department did agree to that. A motion, Cory, on that?
Motion to move, sorry, line 57017 to $30,000.
So, I'll second, sorry.
Any further questions or clarifications? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, 30,000 as opposed to 90. Vehicle.
Line 57009 would recommend 48,059, I think was the number, or is there another number that you did want in there?
Well, that's one of the challenges, because these vehicles, the last three would have been on, well, one of them would have been split 50-50, and the other two would just be on sewer. That totals 73,060 if we did, and they're contingent on each happening. They're kind of a, it wasn't standalone.
There's no one truck that you can.
No.
The current cab and chassis of number 16 is in good shape. So we were looking to repurpose it and replace the truck 11. Truck 11 is old. The utility body has already been repurposed once from a previous cab and chassis. So its time is it's time. So we thought by repurposing the truck 16 cab and chassis that we currently have, purchase a new utility body for the meter distribution technician, that would give him the team, an upgraded vehicle, one that already has a 4x4 and is capable of plowing. And then we were looking to purchase the wastewater treatment plant, a newer version, a newer 16, a newer 3/4 ton 4x4, due to the amount of snow, the heavy equipment, the extra trailers that we have to trailer around now. So 11 and 16 are kind of married together, so to speak. And then the other truck 13 is only a half ton. And it's more or less to get rid of that old Crown Vic that does, just does commuting in the winter. It doesn't move around very well. So, I mean, it would be my recommendation to go with the bigger vehicles. If we were looking to hold off, I'd keep that Crown Vic a little longer. Use it as a commuter vehicle. I guess my recommendation would be to try to do something with trucks 16 and 11.
So what would the number be that you would need if we were to do that?
73.
73. And whether you split the truck 11 onto the two budgets, that truck is a water wastewater, where 16 is solely sewer wastewater. So whether you want to refine the first number or just let it all be on this, your purview.
So one thing that we did discuss during our subcommittee meetings was they're gonna have to contend with plowing out the campus. And they're not the first priority when it comes to highway.
Right.
So I would think if we were to do anything, whatever the dollar amount is, we should make sure that we're able to plow out within the department. And they can use it for the other stations as well.
Absolutely.
Looking at some of the other vehicle requests up above on the sheet that I had distributed last week, it would seem like that page 78 and 82, we do get, for $73,000, we do get two vehicles out of it. So they are married, so you can't do one without the other because we're repurposing one. But we are, as we've just seen, we are now trying to maintain a $53 million facility. And if it snows, we have to be able to, and there are other functions to what, truck 11 is, no. Yeah, truck 11 is the one that's aged, right? Or is it
Yes.
six? Yeah.
Yes.
So truck 11 has to be, something has to be done with truck 11 sometime probably within the next few years anyway. And they've come up with this idea, well, there's still some value that they could swap out some components and end up with two vehicles for basically half price on one of them, so it's a tough call in view of all the other requests, but,
What was the number again? One more time, sorry.
73,
73,000,
no,
so.
$60.
So I'll make a motion for line 57009, capital outlay vehicles, an amount of 73,060, despite our original thoughts and recommendation from the subcommittee.
So does everybody understand what we did? And again, it's explained on page 78 and 82 of the CIP book. We're repurposing truck 11 with 16 and then replacing that after we do that swap over. So we get 2 for the price of 1.5, if you will. Since we're all, we saved $12 million on one end, and now we're saving another, we're just saving money, hand over fist.
Thank
My
you.
wife tells me this all the time when we go shopping.
I know,
How
really.
much money we save by going shopping. Not true.
It's like a sale
My wife under
that the
bus,
state.
But I just thought it was a good line.
So, it's been moved and seconded to revise the vehicle budget of 57009 to $73,060. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, continue.
Yes. 73,060. Okay, so then, new line item, lagoon sludge removal. So when we were designing and costing out what the wastewater treatment plant was going to cost, there were some costs through value engineering that got deferred, and that would be cleaning the sludge out of the existing lagoons, or the sludge that was generated through the old sewer plant. It's about a $4 million project that the department is wanting to do over about a 10-year period. We spoke quite a while about it, and tried to brainstorm some other ways to do it. Is, do we buy our own truck and hire someone to haul it for us? Or how does it work? And so, or do we talk to other towns in the area that are in the same boat, so to speak, and try to regionalize this portion of it? So I guess that is where our recommendation to hold off for the moment on it came from. I know, Jen, you had said you wanted to see something on the radar for next year to start doing something, but that's kind of where we left it in our discussions.
I'll let Jen make her case and then we can ask a question after that.
And Matt is also a great resource on this. And we've been trying to look at ways to do this efficiently and at reasonable cost, and not get us into trouble with sludge that's still in the old lagoon, Lagoon 1. We have to keep aerators running as long as there's sludge in there. That's electrical cost, that's maintenance cost of very old aerators. And so our initial concept was what you see in the CIP, basically spreading it out over a 10-year period. Matt, maybe you can run us through, and we did brief the town manager on another concept that we had it was last week, so you have not heard this yet.
So let me try to explain my thought and what we brought to Russ's attention. So I just have a new memo as of, let me see, yesterday, but I didn't even check my email until today. So Wright Pierce has gone through, kind of looked at the project, where we're at. They're projecting out as we start to get close to the end of this project. They're starting to kind of look at line items that might potentially be, come in under budget. So the concept is, and it's back to this loan agreement and getting back to this number, what do we choose? So as we potentially come to the end of this project, I'm very happy to say we're gonna be under budget, and to the tune of approximately, maybe 1.5 million under budget. So, we're all comfortable with that 53, well, comfort, I don't know how to, maybe that's the wrong word, but we all familiar with the 53.5 million number. There's a chance that we could, with this committee's blessing, we're trying to find that end number for that loan. Well, if we're able to spend $1 million out of this project money to begin the process, just to kind of get us moving forward, maybe we don't have to ask for something for a couple years. We just have to see how much gets out. They're estimating 3,700 dry tons of sludge are coming out of 1 and 2. That is at our current rate of $134 a wet ton to ship to Waste Management. I hate saying it, but it's cheaper now than it ever will be. If in 3 to 5 years, new constituents, new standards come out that we have to start testing sludge, and what's in sludge, we all know about PFAS, PFOA. We all know about these things. There may not be a place for the sludge to go up in Rochester. It may go to New York. So I'm not trying to throw any scare tactics out here. I'm just trying to show you that there is money potentially that we've already budgeted for. We're already kind of stomached a little bit. And it might be a good start to see how well we can do at having a private company do it, get a sense of what it will take money-wise, but at least we've moved forward, made a good effort. We can explain that to the state. Maybe it can buy us some time in how fast we need to close the lagoons. So I don't know if I was specific enough or if I was all over there, but that's essentially what the discussion was with Jennifer and Russ as they start to project some cost savings. I don't know.
So just to follow up on that point, so to go back to the chart that we were looking at with the $53,580,000 figure and the debt projections, my comment to Matt when this idea was brought to us was essentially, I felt it was very important that we not disrupt the repayment schedule and the state aid grant schedule. So in terms of closing the project out and making sure that we get in the queue properly for these things, it requires us to meet certain deadlines through DES. So we left that as a discussion item. We were gonna go back and talk with them about this particular aspect of it to see whether or not it would fit into the schematic that we've laid out here. So that's really where we are with that right now. Any savings that we get off the project, obviously this number at the bottom of this chart will change. So again, the principal forgiveness is 2.709 million plus the 5871 that you have there is the full 53,580. What Matt is saying is that we expect the project to actually come in under budget, so that overall number is going to be less, which would, cascade to a small savings on the debt service budget. And what he's suggesting is that we plug this cost in to get up to that 53,580 or somewhere very close to that, maybe get 20% back on that. But again, I think the timing of it is part of the issue that we need to talk through with the state. So. Thank you.
So generally,
the concern in order to doing this next July, that we're
in order to have a
out,
stamp like an end number,
may not work.
We need to say 53 million or whatever it is.
Right.
So that helps move along that process, and out of that 53, there'll be some space. Because if we say, all right, well, we have $1.5 million of extra money, we don't want to mess around and say, well, it's actually 51.5 or something.
Right.
Because that'll mess up the process, if I'm understanding it correctly. You want to get in the queue here with a final number, which is
That's
the
correct.
53 number.
Correct.
And remember, remember, Bob, because you were there as value engineering, as I was,
Yes,
that was part of the value engineering recommendation, was to take the sludge removal out to reduce the cost, the overall cost,
right,
to bring it down, because we had appropriated $53 million
right.
for the plan. But I don't recall it being $4 million to remove the sludge back 3 years ago. I'm just, again, I'm just.
It wasn't.
It was seven.
No, I don't think so. So value engineering chopped $7 million off the project cost?
Yes.
The lagoon closure was 6 million.
So that means that we underestimated significantly when we appropriated $50 million?
Yes.
No, we made that was a decision that was made at that time. DES wanted us to close the lagoons
Yeah.
altogether, and we looked at the enormity of the cost of this project
Yeah.
and decided to defer that piece to another time.
And they have allowed us to defer it. There's no letter or anything directive saying you got to
Correct.
do this by this time. Matt's correct, the costs are going to go nowhere but up. But yeah, the costs were a lot more than what,
You and
At
I
that
have a
time.
different recollection of that meeting. That's okay.
well, I mean, I've got the book, so
So
I'll
do I.
pull it out, so we'll, yeah.
Well,
I don't know what the number
Throw it away
was.
the paper.
I don't know what the number was. I mean, if they say it was 6 or 7 million, then I don't remember what the number was. I just know it was substantial. I remember somewhere on the order of 10%.
We will have a lagoon closure plan of some kind that's going to dictate when it's gonna happen. I don't have that report yet. I think it comes closer to when the project's done, but the state will give me a report at some point when it needs to be closed.
When is the project done?
The final disbursement request, according to this schedule, will be July or August of next year.
Okay.
And UV will be on in the next week or so, and then there'll be a few more, through more of a couple months into the spring, but I anticipate by June, July of next year, all contractors will be moving out.
So we had talked about in the subcommittee meeting of looking at other options and, see what other towns are doing and maybe, because there's always been this interest in getting a number of communities around Great Bay to work together. I mean, is that feasible at all, or is this one of those things where it's everyone for himself?
I think it's still very, there had been discussions about a regional biosolids facility in the Portsmouth, Newington area, probably 10 years ago. And there hasn't been any other real discussion. That didn't gain momentum. We're in a bit of a unique situation where we have lagoons that are essentially full of sludge. No one else has that burden to bear. Everybody else has, treatment facilities that have been handling solids on a weekly basis for many years. So we are, I don't know if the issue is as challenging for everybody else as it is for us, but, I mean, we can certainly test the waters. It's not easy to just all of a sudden, as you know, to just develop a sludge handling facility.
Right.
And I don't know I think Portsmouth was one of the proponents of that concept 10 years ago. I don't know if that's still the case for them.
So if we have this money available out of the proceeds of the bond, how does that get handled budget-wise?
Well, it's actually it would be part of the authorization from DES on the SRF loan. So it's not cash on hand, but it would be something that they would say, if we approached them with this concept and said, we'd like to include this as part of our disbursement request to the tune of X dollars and apply, we believe we'll have 1.1 million left or 1.3 or whatever that number is. So we'd like to do $1.3 million of sludge removal with those dollars, we would have to get their okay, and if they gave us the okay, then the amortization schedule that you see here would really go into play.
Sure. So it sounds like we need to zero out this line item and
Right.
see what happens.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, either way, you wouldn't have to fund anything in here to pursue this concept that we just talked about. You would zero this out.
Just,
Or maybe leave $1 in there for emergency purposes, that might be. a
All those of
fine-
interest of zeroing out $441,000.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Just another question, just so I
Sure.
can wrap my head around it, Mr. Chair. Does that mean that money, that whatever, that 1.1 mil, that potentially gets earmarked for sludge removal, does that money need to then be encumbered, before you finalize that whole
It's a
bond?
bond money.
It's not, so again, it's not a bond like we normally do,
Okay.
where we would go out, borrow the money and put it in a cash account and spend down on it. It is it's the
borrowed.
state reimbursing us
Okay,
for project costs as you go,
Okay.
and then closing out the loan at the end, and then saying, okay, now it's time to repay.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different in terms of the
Okay.
mechanics.
Well, it wasn't a budget line item that has to be encumbered.
That's correct.
Correct.
To answer the question,
Only
it's
bottom line
not,
is budget.
it would not be an encumbrance, it would just be coming to us from the state as an approved reimbursable under the project.
Any further discussion on that?
do we need to do something?
Yes, we would need to move, to change that budget item.
Right.
I do have one further question.
Sure.
Should the town decide to approach the state about that 1 million and change to help support this project, does that decision come through this committee, or does that go, I don't believe it does, right? So if we zero this out, which I'm personally in favor of, that goes through the select board, is that correct?
Right, we would bring, once we have more conversation with the state, we'll make that part of the conversation with the select board, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'd entertain a motion
Make a
to,
motion to move capital outlay lagoon sludge removal to $1.
Second.
further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So a new capital outlay number,
$125,653. Again, that's 125,653.
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And a new sewer fund total. Cover your ears.
All right. Drum roll. The new sewer fund total is $7,701,799. Again, that's 7701799.
So moved.
Second.
We don't wanna round that off to even.
Is there any fuel we can save? $40?
Yeah, we'll have to relook at the fuel budget now. You get all these new trucks, but no fuel, I'm sorry. We gotta save
They'll
$23,000.
last longer.
All those in favor of a new sewer fund total budget of $7,701,799 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote.
I don't want the percentage on that.
Actually, just for fun, I'd like the percentage.
They don't want to know.
I would like to know.
Well, it'd be about
The
300,
percentage.
right?
200%?
170.5%.
That's why the rates went up 255.
Okay.
Well, despite all that, that's some good work. I mean,
Yeah.
No, it's good discussion. I appreciate
We're
everyone
doing what we
hanging
need to do
in.
to
In the
position
past,
ourselves-
I've been doing the water and sewer for a number of years, and in the past, it's me and whoever is on the committee with me sort of blathering on, and the way everybody dove into this and provided input, I really, really appreciate it.
So, and I also want to point out too, I just want to thank again, because I know when we brought the subject up over the winter, really, coming into the spring, with the select board, they were all very active on this issue, and they all supported it, obviously, and our representatives and state senator came through, and that was not an easy process. There was opposition to it. There was a desire to not fund it from even some, pieces of the delegation that I may not have expected to hear that from. But in the end, it came through, and I think over time, again, that's going to be, providing the program stays in place, a significant offset for us.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's nice
$12
to
million out of the project costs.
Quite frankly, it's nice to see the state recognize that this is not an easy thing for towns or the people who live in towns, locally. So it
Again,
takes everybody getting involved.
I wish the federal government would think the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. From a federal perspective, they paid for the original plan back in the seventies.
So,
Is that right?
before we leave, I'd like to do a little plan. First of all, thank you, Corey, for the presentation.
No problem.
And Jen and Matt for working with us
Thank you.
and all
Thank
that.
you
And your give and take on some of the items, appreciate it. So we have a number of CIP items, and because of the way the budgets are laid out, we've only dealt with 4 of the vehicles. The rest of them are part of a vehicle discussion that will be done in the next 2 weeks. So most of them are water and sewer or DPW oriented, that being the projects and the remaining vehicles. So what I would propose is that we sort of switch things around, because I think that's going to be so we'll have Jen come back with probably Jay and Matt, or whoever, to discuss the projects, CIP projects. This would be next Wednesday. And get as far into vehicles, DPW vehicles, as we can. And then whatever's left over will spill into that Monday, the 18th, and then the other, there's, the Concom thing, the parks, fire, and that sort of stuff. Sure. So with any kind of luck, the 18th meeting is somewhat shorter, because it would be just the leftover general fund items and any water and sewer DPW general spillover. So does that sound like a reasonable approach?
You want to put a time cap on.
Yeah, I was going to say next Wednesday that we would try to be out by 9:30 to 10. So a 3-hour or so meeting.
That being the ones you just described?
That would be the ones that we just, does that work for your guys, for your schedule? So we'll do you first. We'll start off with the, public works and water and sewer projects, and then and then whatever vehicles that we haven't dealt with. And then you might have to come 2 nights unless we can be really efficient.
Am I remembering that Parks had to come first night, or am I misremembering?
I mean, at this point in the game, I want to do it this way.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. Any other comments, or? Then we stand adjourned till next Wednesday, the 13th.